Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophet, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. We are once again live today with no unintended delay at all, except the one that I have out of respect to all those who join the stream late, because I don't want them to miss the beginning of the live stream. That's how considerate and how good I am to all the people who appreciate what's going on here.
Yeah, you're only 8 minutes late. That's a record for you, dude. That's a record of earliness. You're like heading in the right direction.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Somebody said, "Why not new intro?" I didn't have time to put that together yet. I got this song. It's amazing, but I have
You're making a new intro. Your intro song is good, man. What are you talking about?
There is somebody made an intro song by remixing this one, and it sounds amazing. I'm going to.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily better for your intro. You know what I mean? It's a much longer version.
I know, but I'm going to.
Yours just hits it hard. If you wanted to make changes, just make it a little funky. You know what I mean? A little funky.
I know. I'm going to make it the funkiest thing ever.
You don't know about funky. I'm talking 80s funky, son. Be like, oh, it should start out and be like, you could even do like an old funky song. Here you go. Here you go. Ready? Word up. Everybody say D Wood and AP gonna live stream every day. Word up. Right? We do a little word up remix like that.
Every day. That would be fantastic.
Oh yeah. You just say we're gonna do it. We're not actually gonna do it.
Yeah, of course. That's what we do all the time. So look at this. Let me share this quickly here. They even made me look cool for a second. Anyway, much better than mine.
Yeah.
So today we want to respond to the 3Muslims channel. Those guys made a video response, made a live stream in response to us yesterday, and they were.
I'm sure it's powerful stuff.
Yeah. They didn't go through all of everything that we said about. Okay, let me try this again. They didn't go through everything that we said about Sneeko in our stream. They picked specific parts and then responded to them. So I listened to their live stream yesterday live as it was happening, and it wasn't bad. I think many of their points were not good, but they made some maybe valid points. I don't know. So we want to look at some parts of those. David didn't watch it at all. I listened to it a little bit.
Yeah. So I haven't seen. I'm not familiar with who these guys are, but I know I've seen some clips by them before. Like I think one of the Sneeko clips that people use in their videos was on the 3Muslims channel.
Yes.
What are these guys? Are they? I'm assuming Sunni. Are they like Salafis or?
Yeah. I mean, they are the same traditionalist Salafi people. Right. And I mean they are not very. The dirty type, you know, and yesterday,
I'm just asking because that's going to I don't know what they respond to, but if they're responding to Allah's body parts and stuff, then kind of matters.
When I listened to them yesterday, they were quite respectful the whole time, and I even started interacting with them. And I told them that I'm listening, I'm in the chat, and they interacted with me, and they were quite respectful. You know, it was very nice, and they also said that they are open to actually speaking to me directly. You know, having a stream where we can speak to each other. And I thought, yeah, amazing.
They can join us. They can join us pretty much anytime, right?
Yeah, they could. They could. So, and the thing is, here is one thing that I want to say. During our live stream where we together reviewed Sneako's reaction to Woody Meme's video, to John's video, I think I was so tired that I was really harsh to Sneako in my responses, and also harsh to these guys. And I later realized toward the end, why am I being so mean right now? I don't know.
Yeah, why are you being mean to everybody?
So I tried to soften it and make a good message, as you might remember, but. Yeah, so my intention is never to actually insult or humiliate anybody. Sometimes it just comes out when you're dealing with the stuff that we're dealing with. Everything shall be peaceful.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard to. We've talked about this before. It's hard to turn it down if you're interacting with people. Death to you. We'll kill you. We'll kill your wife. Blah 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 blah. And then let me respond to this new convert to this. I get it. But yeah. At the same time, we do tend to dial it up in response to other people. And you said that they're pretty respectful. It would be weird if Muslims start becoming aware of Surah 6, verse 108. Stop insulting people who are going to insult your religion in return, and be nice, and then you won't have the insults. But maybe these are the only 3 guys who got the message.
Yeah. Well, they actually... So I started a little bit mad about this whole thing because, I mean, they made a thumbnail that is just atrocious. I look like a 12-year-old.
Oh, wait. Hey, scroll down to see the title of that video beside it. Sartorial shooter. Is that the guy that Sneako was talking about? He said shooter, and we knew that was Sheikh Uthman's nickname. So
yeah, I think this might be the other guy, because I think he has something with Andrew Tate.
Okay, so, John McCrae, he heard shooter. He heard Sneako refer to shooter or something like that, taking him a loss. So we thought it was talking about Sheikh Uthman because that was his nickname. But apparently there are multiple shooters in Islam.
Yeah, that sounds problematic. So anyway,
hey, can you imagine you're in a mosque, you're like, hey, shooter, come here, and like a bunch of guys walk up because they're all nicknamed Shooter.
Yeah. So their stream was titled Apostate P.
Oh, that's
David Wood.
Not. I don't know. They could be calling you P.
To be honest, if I was a Muslim and I was responding to me, right, to somebody called Apostate Prophet, I would probably not type Apostate Prophet.
Too late. It's an extreme diss. Now we're gonna, but notice now we can't. No, so we're gonna say P Muhammad from now on. P Muhammad. So when PP Muhammad, we didn't start it. We were being nice guys. I don't know.
Yeah. No. It's all.
Oh, you'll get it. We'll let that one slide because they may have an actual religious objection to.
You know, people use much worse things when they refer to us. So this is quite
That's
good.
tame. That's tame.
Yeah. They said Apostate P and David Wood triggered at Sneako accepting Islam and leaving Christianity. So
wait, we're triggered. We think this is like, I mean, I said in response to with the Andrew Tate thing, I wouldn't wish Islam on anybody, but if you told me, David Wood, you get to decide who become their next the people who become their next representatives, but you have to pick people, I'd be like, okay, Andrew Tate. That would be like my number one pick. That was like the one guy I would want representing you, and that's of course who you get. I can't say Sneako would be like number 2 or anything like that, but he'd definitely be like in the top 20 now that I know who he is.
Well, the thing is, so when I heard of Andrew Tate converting to Islam, I found it funny, hilarious, and I thought this is going to be good, bad good, and I was aware of Sneako before he converted to Islam. And when he announced that he has now become a Muslim, I actually laughed, and I found it extremely amusing. So I'm not at all upset or triggered or anything at all by Sneako converting to Islam. I don't think it has any significance to us. And as much as I just think that he's a funny, entertaining guy, but obviously he has nothing to these conversations that we're having.
And think about it, because you've got a guy who, I mean, obviously and indisputably knew absolutely nothing about Christianity, except that there were like medieval paintings, Renaissance paintings of God and Jesus. So that's what he knew. But this is a guy who thought that the Council of Nicaea was a book in the Bible that was removed. He didn't know what the Gospel of Matthew was. He didn't know how chapters work in the book. So this is a guy. Now keep in mind, if you have no clue what you're talking about, great. There are all kinds of things in the world that I don't know anything about. You don't see me talking about them or being constantly called on to explain these things that I know absolutely nothing about. And he's shown that he knows absolutely nothing about Islam. And anytime I am trying to share something, and so I search for Sneeko on there, it's it's always him with girls making out on his lap, or the new one that I saw when I was sharing the video from Elle was he's like, him and his buddy are flirting with these 14-year-old girls. They're like, it's like,
really?
Yeah. That's what's circulating now. But here's what's interesting, right? To be as fair as possible, you could have someone convert to anything and not be following it and not knowing anything about it. That wouldn't be a reason for a pylon. But if you notice, all the Muslims are Fareed is defending him, Sajid is defending him, the 3Muslims, they're all circling the wagons around this guy who should be a massive embarrassment to them. I mean, the first thing he learned about Islam, apparently, he still knows nothing about Islam. The only things he's gotten right so far are Islam calls for 5 daily prayers, and it's okay to have sex with a little girl. Those are the only 2 things I've seen him state correctly about Islam. Mm-hmm. So among the first 2 things he learned about Islam, one was that sex with a prepubescent girl is perfectly morally acceptable. It's like, do they start you off with that now? Is that like when you walk through the door, you walk into a mosque, okay, guys, I'm ready to convert. They're like, okay, remember, pray 5 times a day, and you can have sex with a prepubescent little girl. It's like, that's at the top of their list.
Anyway. Okay, I had no idea about this, but now that you brought it up, I'm seeing this video that Hassan Piker published, which says Sneeko being a PDF file live on the internet, and then footage of them talking to these 2 obviously underage girls, and I don't know what the context of it is. I'm not gonna go into that. Are you ready to review this live stream?
Yep. I mean, here the creepiest part is, they're chatting it up with 14-year-old girls, and we think gross, but it's like his new prophet chatted up with a 6-year-old. I mean, a 6-year-old.
Yeah, but he was a prophet, so
he's a prophet, so therefore it's okay.
It's yeah. So we shouldn't be talking about that. It's all right. Desert Empire said, "You fools debate Zakir Naik if you're so brave. Just kidding. Keep up the good work."
Oh, JK means just kidding.
Yeah.
I always thought it was an abbreviation of joke.
You don't know what JK? Wow.
I don't know, man. I don't know what all these things mean. I send wrong emojis too. I'm not good at telling I'll send it, my wife will say something and I'll send back an emoji and she'll be like, "What's that supposed to mean?" I'm like, "Oh, wait, I thought it meant this." She's like, "No, it means this." I'm like, okay.
All right, let's do this.
And welcome back to the Realist Podcast.
Okay, so they first have some big technical problems here, and try to set it up. Then after a while,
technical problems.
Yeah.
You see, Allah has spoken. He has declared that we are right.
That was the logic of that guy who responded of that fake doctor who was responding to Michael. It's funny.
In a nutshell, how did Rasulullah?
Here's actually an interesting part where they explain how they're meant to react to people like us. And here it shows that they are different from the usual Dawa guys that we are dealing with.
Hey, I just wanted to, Bob Ritter tweeted, Dr. David Wood is live with that guy whose accent is almost identical to Hatun Tash's.
That's wow.
Classic.
That's
classic.
Terrible. That is
good
terrible.
job.
Terrible.
With the enemies of Islam, was he kind of arrogant, petty, and just low energy, or did he have a lot of professionalism and adab?
Prophet ﷺ had the best of character, and he dealt with every individual accordingly and according to what they needed. Alhamdulillah. Inshallah,
That's what we do. That's what we do.
Was always kind and soft until given a reason to be harsh. And
That's
even
what we do. That's what we do.
Insulted or anything, he never really, he never insulted back. Didn't even really defend himself or anything. He just sat there quietly.
Mostly, unless he wanted people to go and kill the people that he is offended by.
Yeah.
And wasn't there an incident where he did hurl an insult, or told people to respond with an insult?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just thinking about this. Like, I mean, he had Abu Afak, who's supposedly over 100 years old, killed for making fun of him and asking people why they're so stupid that they follow him. And then Asma makes a poem about them killing Abu Afak, and he sends his followers in to pull her baby away from her so they could stab her to death. And then, of course, when you go to the conquest of Mecca, he gives a list of people, and one of the common threads on that list of people who had to die, even if they were, even if they ran to the Kaaba for refuge, were the people who insulted him. So there were like singing girls and so on who had insulted him, and they had to die. So let's not act like.
Yeah, there was also an incident where he after the conquest, I think that's actually when it is happening, where where one of those people who offended him in the past and who deserted him in the past and apostatized in the past comes to him and accepts Islam, and he apparently looks at his followers, at the Sahaba.
That was Abdullah ibn Abi Sar. That was that was his scribe who left Islam because he realized that Muhammad was allowing him to make changes to the Quran and edit the Quran. And so he concluded, look, if this guy's a prophet, then I'm a prophet too, because I'm fixing the revelations. And then, conquest of Mecca, this dude's like, I ain't trying to die here. And Muhammad didn't say kill him, but he acted like his followers were supposed to understand that they're supposed to kill him instantly. Anyway, he lived and became a Muslim.
So that's just one example where even if you see that he apparently, as it is described, he just looks at the guy and just accepts his allegiance, but he actually wants his followers to get up and cut the neck off this, cut the head off this guy. That's what he actually wants, but his demeanor is just okay, whatever. So when they say that he was like calm and reasonable and dealt kindly with people, isn't that a little bit twisted in the way he does it?
And think about it. I mean, when he conquered Mecca, he went to the Kaaba and started stabbing the idols in the eyes with a stick to insult and degrade them. So he's mocking the beliefs of the people there of Mecca. But also, I mean, keep in mind, people like Abu Bakr learned Islam from Muhammad himself. And he said in the presence of Muhammad, when he was talking to a pagan, if you don't want to explain female anatomy to your kids, then go ahead and cover their ears real quick if they're watching. But Abu Bakr said to a pagan right there in the presence of Muhammad, he said, go suck the clitoris of a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So he said he's telling a pagan to go perform oral sex on his goddess. Now, Abu Bakr in that situation knew that he could get away with it, because if this guy had said anything back, making fun of Muhammad or anything, they would have just chopped his head off right there. So Abu Bakr knew in situations where he knew he could get away with it, these guys were happy to insult. But notice, guys, this is a situation. If we were talking to these guys right here, if we were talking to these three Muslims here, and we said, hey, you guys are Salafis, you believe Allah has body parts, why don't you go suck on Allah's penis? They would instantly be like, oh, we can't believe anyone would talk to us like that. We can't believe that someone, oh my goodness, it's the end of the universe that someone would, like, that's how the companions of the closest companion, the first of the rightly guided caliphs, that's how he talked to people with whom he had different religious views. And that was
Remind me if I'm wrong, but isn't that even an excuse that Muhammad Hijab brought up when he was trying to justify how he was behaving toward us when he was insulting us and all those things? He actually posted a scholarly reference of that specific incident and said, because of this, it is okay for us to insult the enemies of Islam.
Yeah,
and mention the private part specifically.
Yeah, and keep in mind, before anyone misunderstands us, we're not complaining about that, saying, "Oh, it's so horrible to insult." You guys are the ones who say, "Oh, our religion we would never do that in our religion. We just respond to people." What are you reading? You're either lying or you don't know what's in your sources. That's what I would think.
I would actually find it funny to quickly bring up that source just to back up everything, and also to.
Do you want that? Go suck Allah's clitoris. That's in Tabari. I mean, it's in.
No. I was looking for.
hijabs,
I was looking for Muhammad Hijab's use of that, just to. I mean, I probably have it somewhere on my.
What sucks is
video, but
what sucks is if you tried to do a search for it on Twitter, like Muhammad Hijab and clitoris or something like that, you don't know what's coming up with the king of golden showers and so on. Guys, if you're not familiar, if you're brand new, we are not the ones talking. We're making fun of Muhammad Hijab because he's the one who talks about golden showers and stuff, and he always brings up this stuff, and people in the chat don't know what he's talking about because it's all this creepy, like from perverted websites and stuff like this. People are like, how's this guy an expert in all this stuff? Anyway,
that's why he's an expert. So, that's the whole issue here. That's specifically why he is an expert. Anyway, while I am letting this roll here and looking for it, let's continue with this.
Yeah, let's see.
That's my knowledge. So inshallah, for us as Muslims, we want to be good representatives for people and for Muslims that may watch. We want to deal with this in an appropriate manner. We want to deal with it intellectually, academically. So inshallah, we're going to limit any insults, regardless of how we feel about people. Because let's be honest, we're not friendly with any of these guys. Well, I don't say any of them, but there are two identifiable people who we're definitely not friendly with. But that doesn't mean we have to go and insult people. So inshallah, we're gonna
smart
intellectually, inshallah.
So see, that is considerate and good and maybe smart on their behalf, right? Others could have done the very same thing. I mean, imagine if Muhammad Hijab had approached the whole situation like this from the very beginning instead of being a complete scumbag.
Yeah, it is. I mean, think about this. Notice this. The correct position of Islam is not that it's wrong to insult people's religious beliefs and so on. It's that if you're in a position where you cannot violently subjugate them, then don't insult them because they're going to insult your religion back. So only insult them once you have power over them. So, okay, these guys are looking around at the world today. Should you be insulting people who can insult your religion back? No, you should wait until you have an Islamic society to do that. But they're all doing it now because they just can't help themselves.
Oh, look at this. Here's Muhammad Hijab. This is what I was talking about earlier. He tweeted this where he said, Imam Ibn al-Qayyim said in Zad al-Ma'ad, in the words of Abu Bakr to Urwa, suck the clitoris of Allah. This is evidence that it is permissible to explicitly mention the name of private parts if there is a benefit which is necessitated by that circumstance.
It was necessitated.
Yeah.
It was necessitated.
So it is necessitated that he actually uses sexually explicit insults against the enemies of Islam, because he just has to. It is necessitated by our behavior or whatever it is. So this is actually his logic, and he did that just as a result of us actually criticizing Islam and nothing else.
But by the way, notice the insane hypocrisy. This is the same guy who, when we insult Muhammad in any way, goes and says, but we Muslims never insult people's sacred symbols. It's like, what? He knows that's a lie. I mean, he knows about Muhammad, like stabbing the eyes of the idols. He clearly knows about what Abu Bakr said to a polytheist. So he knows it's false. He knows you do. Allah was this man's sacred symbol, and Abu Bakr completely made fun of this guy's beliefs in the most degrading way he could. And somehow, when it's convenient it usually comes up when there's killing over like cartoons or something, and they go, it's because they insulted our sacred symbols. Like, what religion are you from? Because you guys do that, have been doing that for 14 centuries.
I would also argue that to me, my life is sacred, human life is sacred, my loved ones are sacred, all of these things. I mean, they will even, Muhammad Hijab, even himself or others will use this and say they worship themselves or they worship their egos or their loved ones. So yeah, to me, that is all sacred. So if you really do not insult these things, then abstain from insulting me, abstain from insulting the people I love, abstain from insulting people altogether, from threatening people, and so on.
Yeah,
there is your logic.
We got itchy trigger fingers when it comes to firing shots at your fake prophet, guys. So just beware.
That's true. All right, let's move on.
With that being said, let's just get into it. I will say, I'm going to be honest, this is not meant to be rude. I'm just being blunt. A lot of the time, they were just joking around, saying nonsensical stuff. It was kind of sad, to be honest. Not so much on John's part, but more so on...
So they are mainly upset at you. Then I am on the second place, and with John, they don't have a problem. They're like, oh, he's okay. But so you are enemy number 1. I am enemy number 2. And John is just innocent guy. But yeah, so they have a typical Muslim culture attitude about being like, you have to be very serious always when you talk about things. Why are they joking around? This is not good and stuff like that. It's kind of weird. But yeah,
trying to argue that he should actually be a Christian.
I'll just say real quick, guys, if you don't want us making fun of the most obvious false prophet in history, get a prophet who isn't like basically begging to be mocked with all the stupid stuff he did.
Yeah, and if your religion, if your religious book contains insults to me and threats and calls me and us worst of creatures and says, fight them and subjugate them. If your prophet says those who leave the religion should be killed, so how do you expect me to be respectful?
Yeah,
how in the world do you expect me to be respectful?
If we're under multiple death sentences, cry us a river if you don't like us joking. All right, cry us a river.
On the right here, the Christian responded to some of Sneako's claims and was trying to argue that he should.
All right, so we can skip pretty much their explanations.
His first reason.
Get to relevant parts.
Okay. Why I resonate with Islam? Why it makes sense for me? Because it's weird. It doesn't make sense to me to pray to a man. I don't want to submit to a man. The only person that we should submit to and that we should pray to should be the one creator of the universe, which is.
Wait, what did he say? No submitting to Allah.
What?
Man, we become a Christian. So don't believe me.
Well, it's funny. You are talking in that footage, but I think you're talking here. This is weird.
We are now talking.
we are now reacting to their reaction to our reaction to Sneako's reaction to John's video.
Wow. About Sneako.
About Sneako. Wow, man.
This is getting weird.
It's getting wild.
This is like that. This is like that. What is that dream movie where like they go into people's dream? Yeah.
Inception. Yeah. Terrible movie, by the way.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed.
People love it. They're huge fans of it. So that's no, I would say 3Muslims. I think it would be very funny if you responded to this stream as well, and we just keep it going. And in the end, we have this huge chain of reactions. And
I'll prove it. Let's start with his first reason.
Okay. Why I resonate with Islam, why it makes sense for me, because it's weird. It doesn't make sense to me to pray to a man. I don't want to submit to a man. The only person that we should submit to and that we should pray to should be the one creator of the universe, which is Allah. He created the universe and we love him for it.
Wait, did he say?
Why I resonate with Islam, why it makes sense. He created the universe and we
have submitted to a man and therefore decided to reject Christianity and to embrace Islam. But unfortunately,
there are a lot of reasons. That wasn't the reason that I reverted to Islam, but that's the reason why Christianity.
You said you gave that as a reason, Sneako.
Does have a.
Look here. This is the funny part.
Now I couldn't tell now I couldn't tell who was laughing because I heard you laughing and I'm like, wait, that
was the other me. He's laughing.
That's
so
AP from Sunday.
So the other me, the past AP is laughing here because obviously Sneako doesn't know how things work, and he gets mad because John responds to one of his reasons, and he will continue to the rest. And he thinks, well, I also had other reasons. But the funny thing is, these 3 Muslim guys make the very same mistake and agree with Sneako for some reason.
Isn't this like insane though? It's like if I walk up to you and I say, here are my 20 reasons for believing in this, and you go, okay, let's go through these reasons. His first reason was, you go, what? You're responding to my first reason, but I had 19 more. What's wrong with you? It's like
exactly.
I would kind of have to start somewhere, right? I mean, if I'm responding anyway.
Yeah,
asking him why he converted, he gives the reasons. Then we say, "Hey, well, that's not the reason."
He will keep doing that again and again, but he just doesn't understand. And John starts counting the reasons, and he mentions one reason. He's like, "Well, that's not the only reason. There are more reasons."
Yeah.
See, this is what I mean. Like, I'm sorry, it's such an incredulous and sad argument to make. Like, if someone asks you why you're a Muslim, and you give a reason, right? You give a reason. That doesn't mean that's the only reason. That may be the more powerful reason. Now, I think it's funny that Ridwan is mentioned.
So you can't respond to that reason because there may be other reasons.
Am I not understanding this? I mean, what is happening?
They're all doing the same thing. I think it's just they're trained to whine about everything as soon as you start responding, right? Like as soon as you start answering anything they say, oh, what? And they don't realize.
So
what's crazy is it works with their fans. Their fans will instantly go, "Oh, you're right. How could they ignore all the other reasons?"
I know. I saw the chat. I saw the chat when this was going on, and the chat was agreeing with him. And I mean, dear chat, dear our chat. I mean, these are moments where I feel like, is there something wrong with me? Because obviously
they're trained to whine.
Sneeko gives 5 reasons. John says
deals with them
he gave 5 reasons. Let's respond to his first one, and then Sneeko's like, "Well, I also had other reasons." And this guy then comes and says, "Yeah, look, see, this is very sad. Why are they only responding to? Why are they only responding to one of those arguments? And that doesn't mean that all of his reasons are bad. What?
Wait, yeah. Why are they going through the 5 reasons you gave one at a time and examining them individually? You have to examine everything all at once so that no one can understand what you're saying. That's how things work, don't you? They love to just make up rules because this would never cross their mind. If I made a video, like I've made videos, top 10 myths Muslims believe about Islam. If someone responds to them and starts saying, "I'll go through these," imagine someone goes through, "Okay, let's look at number 10, and then we'll go through the others." And then I immediately start, "What? You're responding to number 10? What about the others that you're going to respond to later? What about those?" It's like so insane.
This is just so weird. But it's moments like these where I sit back and I think, I don't understand the world.
And everyone, we just have to make a video that is like completely generic, basic critical thinking. Like basic critical, listen to people, try to understand what they're saying, try to break down more complex points into simpler points so you can go through them. Here's how basic confirmation theory works. Here's how basic logic works. Because none of these guys seem to understand like anything about basic critical thinking. It's weird.
John Beaver said past AP should be called hangry AP. That might be accurate. Yeah, might be accurate.
Actual contention they have is why Sneeko said a man shouldn't be who we submit to, but then said the only person. I think we're looking pretty good right now, bro.
Alhamdulillah. But let's continue.
Mm-hmm. Wait, did they agree with him? Don't submit to a man. Did they not understand this? So guys, just a recap.
Wait. Well, let's quickly listen to this, and then we can elaborate on that.
For atheists to make, to be completely honest, we can talk about that. With all due respect, the worst possible arguments. Literally, they were like scientific inaccuracies, and then some kind of moral argument. Completely refuted in those. Okay. And you guys can watch it. It's online. So does that mean that he should delete his channel because his one reason that he doesn't believe in Islam was completely decimated on the spot? I don't think he would agree with that.
What the heck is wrong with these guys?
We never even said or implied such a thing, but we got it. Let's quickly.
Why are you playing this game? Honestly, it's so.
We're not, dear. I don't know what your name is, but you obviously don't get it. We are not playing that game. We're not saying one of his arguments is bad, therefore everything is bad. We are going through his arguments one by one. That's the whole point. But
sad for for someone to make this argument, especially being online as long as he has. Like, is this the level of argumentation that you can bring? Especially
is your level of response? What?
I don't even understand.
Notice. This is so simple. Sneeko said, "I converted to Islam because I don't believe in praying to a man or submitting to a man." Right? John starts responding to the submitting part, saying, "Hey, if you have a problem with submitting to a man, the Quran orders you to submit to Muhammad. In fact, according to Surah 4, verse 65, you cannot be a Muslim unless you submit to all of Muhammad's decisions. So you have to submit to a man." So we point that out. Hey, Sneeko, if that's one of your reasons for converting to Islam, that's a really terrible reason. And then John's going to go through the other ones and show that they are all terrible reasons. What's the point? The point of all this is all of your reasons are bad. And these guys are, if this is the level of argumentation, namely going through the points carefully and correcting obvious mistakes, I don't know what to expect from these atheists and Christians.
I don't even understand. This is so weird.
Guys, this is my first impression of the 3Muslims, because I must have seen a couple of clips. I saw the Sneeko clip, but it's mainly them talking to someone else, and we're listening to someone else. But I have to say, if this is like their level of ability, I mean, you would not pass Logic 101 if you walk in there and this is how you think about things. I can't imagine you passing any class if this is your reasoning.
Okay, so they were very nice to me yesterday, right? So they were very respectful to me because I was also very respectful to them, and I want to personally keep that. But I also want to say they also said that they would like to actually have a discussion one-on-one and talk to each other.
2
I
on
would
2.
like to-
Matter of fact, 3 on 2. If there's 3 Muslims, bring all 3 of them on. We'll have a discussion with them.
Maybe I would like to ask them about this. Like, why? How does this happen? Why do you get the impression that this is what I'm doing when we are obviously not doing that?
Yeah.
But let's see how they are going to respond to.
Oh boy.
Someone who just accepted Islam.
Bro, if the best intellectual contention they have is why Sneeko said
The-
a man shouldn't be
best-
Sneeko, but then said the only person, I think we're looking pretty good right now, bro.
The best.
Alhamdulillah.
If the best contention they have is this, they just said
I said in the intro 5 reasons, but yeah.
that's an ongoing problem. Is John will
I thought it's you talking, but yeah.
start responding to something, and they'll go, but there's this other stuff, and then like John's about to respond to the other stuff. It's this ongoing thing where he flips out. Like, that's what they just did. It's like if you say, if you have three things you want to respond to him about, something he said, then as soon as you start responding to one, he starts going, oh, but what about this other? And it's like, why don't you have the slightest bit of patience here, buddy? Just a slight bit.
This is funny. We're actually just responding.
Yeah.
You are responding to exactly what they were complaining about. And his reaction, listen to his reaction now.
One anyways.
All right, here we go. Have the slightest bit of patience here, buddy. Just a slight bit.
3 is 1 anyways.
All right, here we go.
You
That's his response. 3 is 1. It's like, dude, this is not looking good.
That wasn't very respectful.
No, yeah. He just said, "Oh yeah, that was an insult against." Wait, that was an insult against my belief in God, right?
Yes, he was just mocking your belief in the triune God.
So to be clear, can I then tell him to go perform oral sex on Allah?
According to the
I'm not going to, because even I won't go that far. But
according to the evidence that Muhammad Hijab presented, yes, of course. Okay.
So according to his religion, I could respond like that, and I'd be totally reasonable. He started mocking my belief in God. Notice he wouldn't even have to mock my belief in God. I could just start saying that because that's how his religion teaches him to respond. But okay, we'll let it slide. But so I won't insult your God, but I will call your prophet a child molesting, murdering rapist, there, buddy, because you started it. You started. I didn't. You started that. All right.
Okay.
That's their real God anyway. Come on. They started it. We warned them, and they knew it. They literally started off their show by saying, "We are aware. We're aware of the rules here," and then he can't help himself.
Fair enough.
Oh, he should reject Islam. The reason why is because, according to the Quran, Sneeko is actually commanded to submit to Muhammad, who's a man. So if this is a real reason for why
Sneeko
pray to Muhammad,
it's again such sad levels of argumentation. I don't know if I should make us big or keep it on the show. I'll just keep it the way it is for now. But
now let's listen. If we talk, let's do this.
Okay, inshallah, I'll let you handle it then. So, that type. I feel like that looks weird.
You think so?
Here, I'll just boom. All right, bismillah. So listen, there are certain premises that you have to infer when listening to some people speak. For example, Sneeko said that he doesn't want to submit to a man. There's a certain inference that you have to make, which is that you should not submit to a man generally.
I have already understood the logic behind what he's saying before he's even making the point. He's referring to like we're doing semantics here and using submitting to a man in a different context. But that's exactly the point. It will be further elaborated on. So,
or explicitly. As soon as you submit to a man over God, over Allah, you've submitted to someone who is biased. Let me get in the camera. Someone who's biased, someone who doesn't know everything, someone who will definitely be incorrect. And this is the issue with submitting to any man.
Okay, David, you can take over and respond to this as soon as I know exactly what I'm going to say about this, but I don't want to go on a tangent about the logic of worshiping Jesus Christ, who is man and God. So, but obviously, the point here is not that you are worshiping a man, a random dude who is just a man, and then trust it. But go ahead.
Well, I mean, again, I don't know. Maybe he's going to say something right after that, because I haven't seen this. So maybe he's about to say something that makes total sense of it.
Okay.
But if he's trying to explain this, guys, this is extremely simple. Sneeko says he's abandoning Christianity because he doesn't believe in submitting to a man. Now, keep in mind, in Christianity, that's the incarnate second person of the Trinity. So this is not an ordinary man. And so Sneeko says he doesn't want to submit to a man, so he's going to Islam, where you only submit to God. John points out that according to the Quran, you have to submit to Muhammad. You have to submit to Muhammad. In fact, it is a requirement. It's not like submitting to your boss or something like that. You cannot be a Muslim unless you submit to Muhammad. The verse, Surah 4, verse 65 specifically says it. You can't be a Muslim unless you submit fully, completely to all of Muhammad's decisions. What's that mean? It means that in order to be a Muslim, you are submitting to everything this man says. And it's important how Muslims actually use this. You'll recall, AP, the video of Muhammad Hijab, where he's saying, if you just look at the Quran, you will get the indication that you can have sex with a 5-year-old, right? He says, according to the Quran, sex with a 5-year-old is halal, according to the Quran. So that's according to the speech of Allah, you can have sex with a 5-year-old. That's not me. That's Muhammad Hijab saying that. But he doesn't think you should have sex with a 5-year-old, because once you go and see outside of that, you see the example of Muhammad and how Muhammad decided to wait until she was 9. Therefore, you should wait till a girl's past 5. Notice what he's doing. The Quran, Allah says 5 is fine. Muhammad says, wait a little longer. And Hijab says, therefore, we wait a little longer. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're taking what Muhammad says as even more significant than what Allah himself has told you. And so this is how you're submitting to this man. Again, they talk to him during their prayers. I mean, the early Muslim sources, they're rubbing his saliva on themselves and drinking his blood and so on. They believe he intercedes for them at the judgment. This is clearly not a regular person you're submitting to, which I think that's where they're going. They're saying, we wouldn't submit to a regular person. That's not the point. Sneeko says he doesn't want to submit to a man. Is Muhammad a man? So should Sneeko be submitting to him if Sneeko's main problem is submitting to a man? That's the entire point. It's simple. He said, here's my reason. I want this religion where I don't have to submit to a man. First thing you find out when you join that religion, submit to this man. Okay, should that be a problem? That should be a problem for your reason that you just gave. And somehow it's not, which calls into questions whether these are your real reasons.
Yeah, I wanted to quickly bring up the relevant Quran verse, which is Quran 4:65, chapter 4, verse 65, which says, but no, by your Lord, they will not truly believe until they make you, Muhammad, judge concerning that over which they dispute among themselves, and then find within themselves no discomfort from what you have judged, and submit in full submission. Or surrender in total submission to Muhammad, to whatever Muhammad says and orders. So this is here in this religion, in Islam, according to this verse, according to the general traditional Islamic understanding, what you do is, yes, you do worship Allah only and do not ascribe a different nature to him. But the thing is, while you are telling yourself and while you are saying that you only worship Allah, you are also taking Muhammad as a figure whose words are commands to you, and you do whatever in the world he says. Now, this guy will say, and others will say, we do what he says because Muhammad is because he's the prophet of Allah, the final messenger, the most precious one, and he's guided by Allah. He is there to do this. We trust him because of this. But then, why do you have a problem with with worshiping or with believing in Jesus, who is not just a man, unlike in Islam, but who is actually God? Why is that a problem? If you can blindly trust Muhammad, who claims to be Allah's messenger. This reminds me of a video that I made long in the past, which was called the Cult of Muhammad or something like that, and there I explained the extreme reverence and obedience toward Muhammad in Islam, which is very unusual to Abrahamic religion in general, because in Abrahamic religion you don't there is no real such thing where you take a prophet and elevate him to such a level that he is perfect. He is only a human, but he's perfect in every way, and you command you obey him. Your faith depends on recognizing him as your leader. When you join Islam, you don't only say there is no God but Allah, you also say Muhammad is his messenger. So you have to acknowledge him in order to be a Muslim, and so on. In Christian, then Muslims respond to this and say, but what about Christians? Don't they form a cult around Jesus? Okay, maybe. But that is completely different. It is a completely different issue, because in Christianity, Jesus is not just a regular man that you, for some reason, submit yourself to and obey and do whatever he says. The logic here is entirely different. Here in Islam, you are submitting to a mere man while acknowledging that he is only a mere man. While in Christianity, you are following, believing, worshiping a God himself, who in this way takes the form of a human. And how that happens has been discussed in Christian history and in Christology for many centuries, in the very beginnings of Christianity. But there is a difference. Submitting to a man blindly for no reason at all, despite the fact that he's just a man, and then submitting to God. There is a difference. And you should acknowledge this difference.
Yeah, and so in short, it's if you see, if you were like an alien from another planet, or you came from an island or something like this, and you see Christians really focused on this guy Jesus, and you say, why are you treating Jesus like God? Christians, because we believe he's God, right? We believe God took on a human nature and entered into creation. And they say, okay, and the question would be, did God actually do that? That would be the question. If you then turn to Muslims and say, Muslims, why are you treating Muhammad like God? Why are you submitting to him the same way you submit to God? So Christians, exactly. Why are you submitting to Jesus the same way you're submitting to God? Because he's God. He has that authority. You turn to Muslims, why are you submitting to Muhammad like you submit to God? Because he's last and he's a prophet. And AP, you just pointed out, people don't treat regular prophets like that. I mean, in the Bible, they actually they draw attention to the sins and shortcomings of their prophet. The impression you get is God takes dysfunctional people and uses them for what suddenly you get to Muhammad and it's, nope, God picked this really great guy who did some of the most horrible things in the universe. But for some reason, we just, God wants us to submit to this guy.
That's the whole point of those.
And to imitate him in every way. And, how did he step into the bathroom? I have to step into the bathroom like that. Oh, how did he pee? Oh, I need to pee like him. It's like, what?
I mean, you have books in the Bible that are centered, and you have narratives in the Bible that are centered on prophets. And the whole point is, in many of those narratives, that they are flawed human beings who go through big struggles, big trouble, even through rebellion, even through questioning God and struggling with their faith and all of these things. And then the Bible resolves the struggles that they have, and this gives you this is in a sense relatable to you as a human, where you see that those prophets were also just humans, but they are chosen for a reason, and that is a message to you. In Islam, you don't have the same thing with Muhammad. In Islam, Muhammad is not just a regular person like you. He doesn't make great mistakes. He is not wrong. He is right. He is guided, and you better don't disagree with him. You are not allowed to disagree with him. You are supposed to submit to him. Why? Nobody knows. This is entirely new.
And if Allah says you're okay if she's 5, and your prophet says, no, I'm gonna wait till she's 9, go with your prophet. He's more important. But you're not, but there, even though he intercedes with you and you speak directly to him in your prayers and all this, and he can trump the words of Allah himself, just keep telling yourself he's just a regular man.
The Quran says you can have up to 4 wives. Muhammad has 11 wives, but you are like, well, he's the prophet. We can't, Allah says this, but he's the prophet. He knows best, and we do whatever he says.
And it really does. I mean, like Allah in the Quran is obsessed with just giving Muhammad whatever he wants, anything Muhammad wants, any sexual desire that pops into his head. Allah rushes in there like a like his servant or something.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a puppet.
Anyway, so lots of problems here, man.
Any group of men, any group of people. This is the problem with liberalism as well. They make the human being sovereign, even though they have biases and limited knowledge, and so on and so forth. So it's really just a fallacious argument to say, well, you submit to Muhammad.
This guy's breaking down fallacious arguments to us.
Why do we obey the Prophet? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Because
Look now. Look at his reasoning. He will explain why they obey the Prophet Muhammad, and it's not good. Look at this.
Because Allah Almighty gave him the knowledge of Islam, perfect wisdom of Islam, and commanded us to listen to him in his judgment on the religion. That's why. It's such a simple...
God commanded you to submit to him. This is, guys, this is so insanely simple, right? This is so insanely simple. Okay. Sneeko says, I want to abandon Christianity and become a Muslim because I don't like the idea of submitting to a man. So I'm converting to this religion where I don't have to submit to a man. Dudes, the correct response is, Sneeko, Islam requires you to completely submit to a man. So
no, you're
so,
wrong.
So,
you're wrong. We only submit to him because Allah tells us to submit to him.
yeah. So notice I'm saying the correct response would be, Sneeko, if your real problem is submitting to a man, find a different religion because Islam requires you to submit to a man. So we want you to be aware of that. You either need to drop your objection. And if there were Muslims talking, they would say you need to drop your objection to submitting to a man. That shouldn't be your problem. It's that simple. In other words, these guys should agree with us that if your problem is with submitting to a man, then you've got a problem with Islam. Instead, they're attacking us for pointing out the obvious.
So here is a very simple exchange. I say, I don't want to follow a religion where I have to submit to a man. Then somebody else says, but you are, by following Islam, following a religion where you submit to a man. You submit to Muhammad. And you say, no. I only submit to Muhammad because Allah says so. What?
Yeah. So your religion requires you to submit to a man, which is what you said you were. Which is what you said you were trying to convert to the religion specifically to avoid.
Whale.
And they get mad at us. They get mad at us for pointing out what a 5-year-old could understand. I really believe I should do this. I should put my 5-year-old on camera and say, "Hey, if I don't want to submit to a man, and this religion says you have to submit to a man, should I convert to that religion?"
My 6-year-old just learned to say "bro" whenever he's like surprised, and he's like, "What?" So I'm pretty sure if I do this to him, he will be like, "Bro."
It's weird how they're picking that up. My kid picked it up. I don't even know where he got it. I'm guessing YouTube videos or something like that, even on the kids channel. But yeah, my kid was saying it too. But he was going, "Bruh." And I was like, what? I said something. He goes, "Bruh," and I'm like, "Wait, what?"
All right.
I know they understand this. This is the thing. Ridvan and David would know this. They just don't care. They're looking for any gotcha moment where they could take a word and twist it. Now, the many times they mention, oh, this was in context. It wasn't out of context. He said this word for word. And listen, if you were to take John 17:3 verbatim, you would denounce Jesus as God. Because
he's breaking down context to us.
Father, or Jesus speaking to the Father, so that they may know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ who you sent. Okay, what about what Paul said? He said that.
Okay. Could be considered fair, but the issue is you're addressing something that we did not do.
Yeah. He's responding to context. So yes, if you just took John 17:3 and you ignored the entire section of what Jesus is talking about in John chapter 14 through 17, yes, you could always pick a verse and completely rip it out of context, and it would give you a very different meaning than if you read it in context. There's no disputing that. Are these guys, what are they actually saying? Are they saying that we took Sneeko out of context, or we're taking the Quran out of context?
They're saying we took we are taking, okay, it's a little bit twisted, but we took Sneeko out of context, and we are taking out of context he's saying we are playing with the semantics here and applying, what do you call it?
The word submit?
Submitting, because Sneeko uses it in the sense of submitting to, worshiping, while we say, but you submit to Muhammad. So, but those are not the same things. Therefore, you are making a mistake. That's what they are saying. But we are already aware of this. And
Sneeko says he doesn't believe in submitting to a man. He only believes in submitting to God. We point out Islam requires you to submit to a man. The point there was not, hey, therefore you shouldn't submit to Muhammad or something. It's given your reason, you should not have converted to this, but you did it because you don't know any better. These guys obviously aren't going to tell you that your objection would also apply to Islam. They're not going to tell you that. So we're going to tell you that so that you can make an informed decision. Now, drop your objection to submitting to a man or leave Islam. But you can't believe in Islam and submit to Muhammad while declaring that your reason for converting to Islam is that you don't believe in submitting to a man. Those don't go together. You have a contradiction in your thinking. I refuse to submit to a man, therefore I'm converting to a religion which requires me to submit to a man. You have to drop one. Either drop your idea about not submitting to a man or drop Islam. Don't hold the contradiction together in your head.
What they are going for is, here in this case, they are saying, okay, but Sneeko doesn't actually have a problem with submitting to a man. What Sneeko actually meant there was that he has a problem with worshiping a man. So whether we actually submit to Muhammad or not is irrelevant, because that's not what Sneeko is worried about. Sneeko is only worried about worshiping a man.
Well, right. even that, notice they have worshipped Muhammad according to Muhammad. Remember, according to Muhammad, what I just said, Muhammad, when he said that the Jews and Christians worship their rabbis and priests.
Oh, yeah.
someone raised the objection and said, what are you talking about? They don't worship rabbis and priests. He said, whenever you take their words about what's halal and haram and allow that to trump what Allah says about halal and haram, you're worshiping them. That's Muhammad's definition of worship. Whenever I say, hey, I'm going to let this man tell me about what's halal or haram, even if it goes against what Allah says. So that would be worship according to Muhammad. Do Muslims do this? Do they say, hijab admits it. Muhammad Hijab, the champion of dawah, admits it. Allah says, sex with a 5-year-old's halal, according to the Quran. But because Muhammad waited until 9, therefore, what's that? Not according to me, not according to AP, not according to the Muslims here, not according to Sneeko, according to the Quran, according to Muhammad. What is it if you say, I'm going to let Muhammad decide what's halal and haram, even if it contradicts what Allah has said? That's worship. So they are. So even in the religious sense of worship, you're submitting to Muhammad in a way that involves worship. So this is worship style submission here.
Yeah. Mosh Cohen said, hi guys, this is your Mossad handler. You missed the weekly update. Not cool, guys. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, brother Mosh Cohen. Say shalom to all the brothers at Mossad. I will attend the next meeting as soon as I can.
I'll try and make it.
Yeah. But so I want to, let's say they're making a fair point. The issue is we already acknowledged that at the very beginning, and so did John, which is why he then moved on and gave another reasoning. But let's say they're making a fair point and they're saying, okay, the problem is only with explicitly and knowingly and deliberately worshiping a man. Let us say, okay, here you guys made a fair point. All right, let's drop this, but then let's move on to actually worshiping a man. Why is that problematic? And let's move on. I think they're going to respond to this.
The Father is God and Jesus is Lord. And lordship, by the way, especially back then, doesn't mean Lord like God. It could just be
there's the context issue, but let's see.
Well, it's great. Alhamdulillah. All right. I didn't see Bobby's perspective. We're doing a reaction to a reaction to a reaction to a reaction right now.
That's funny.
Oh, why is this guy laughing? Is he joking?
Maybe it's funny. We're doing a reaction to a reaction to a reaction.
Supposed to be serious. One of the 3 Muslims is religion a joke to them?
This is so sad. They're laughing and making jokes.
I can't believe it. This is why we can't have conversations with them. They might laugh. There's two big ones here. Just with that. Yeah. But we don't pray to him. So notice, he said, I don't believe in praying to a man or in submitting to a man. You point out that according to the Quran, you have to submit to Muhammad. It's a requirement. Yeah. Surah 4, verse 65 says you are not a Muslim unless you submit to all of Muhammad's decisions. You have to submit to everything Muhammad decides.
That's the very verse that I brought up earlier.
Mm-hmm. And then as soon as you point out that he said he doesn't want to submit to a man, and therefore he just contradicted the Quran because the Quran requires him to submit to a man. He says, but we don't pray to him. So that's the other. So note, yeah, you made two claims. He destroyed one, and then you said, what about the other one? Okay, I mean, you said submit.
This is so sad. I mean, I think maybe David Wood just is too excited and didn't hear what Sneeko said, because the first time he made a mistake, he said person. He thought he said man. This time he made a mistake. He said worship. He thought he said pray to. He didn't say pray to. Nobody said. I don't even think he said the word pray. Maybe he did. All he said.
I don't understand why that is relevant. If pray to and worship are, I don't. Wait, am I having a weird moment right now?
I don't understand. Yeah.
Why is it relevant if it's worship or pray to?
Yeah, you guys clarify the significance there. Are you saying it's okay to pray to but not worship, or okay to worship but not pray to? What we were lumping that together because salat is prayer / worship. It's like one thing. So I don't know.
I don't want to worship a man. I don't want to worship. I don't want to submit to. I dealt with the submission one. Now he doesn't want to worship a man. We don't worship a man. Point blank. Period. Khalas. End of discussion. And now the whole discussion of, and this is why I actually
you do according to Muhammad, you do.
Okay, let him
willfully ignorant liar.
Get to that.
And I don't say that to be rude, because if you go watch the debate between him and Muhammad Hijab, putting them in place of God, pray to someone, especially someone who's passed away. What does that mean? That means that you believe that this person is hearing, that they can hear you from beyond the graves in a metaphysical sense, in a spiritual sense. This is shirk. This is kufr. This is disbelief. You're not allowed to believe this. When we say, and this is what he mentioned in the video, basically, peace be upon you, O Prophet, we don't believe that the Prophet can hear us.
Why are you speaking directly to him then?
We believe there's a hadith that says the angel, Jibreel alayhi salam, or there's an angel that carries it to him and goes and tells him. So the problem.
So, okay, so you brought up, and I think John did too, brought up the whole the fact that Muslims during their prayer, during the 5 daily prayers, do the tashahhud, also called the tahiyyat, where they say and peace and
peace be upon you, O Prophet.
Peace be upon you, O Prophet.
Peace be upon you, O Prophet. Yeah.
O Prophet, and your family. Yeah. I think.
Guys, to clarify, this is during their prayers. They speak directly to Muhammad during their prayers. They say, "Peace be upon you, O Prophet." We've no matter how many times we break down the problem here, they'll go, "Oh, you're saying wishing blessings upon someone is praying to the..." No. That's not what we're saying. We're saying if you wanted to speak to God about Muhammad, you would say, "Oh God, bless Muhammad," or "Oh God, put peace upon Muhammad." That's you speaking to God about Muhammad. When you speak directly to Muhammad, "Oh Prophet, peace be upon you, O Prophet," you're directly addressing him during your prayers. What does that mean? It means that you're not just speaking to Allah during your prayers. You're speaking to Allah and to Muhammad. And these guys' response is, but we don't believe he can hear us when we're speaking directly to him. We don't believe he can hear. We speak directly to him, but we don't believe that he actually hears us.
So here's what we are talking about. During every prayer, all the 5 daily prayers, several times, this is being said. Salutations to God and prayers and good deeds. It should say Allah. Peace be upon you, O Prophet, as well as Allah's mercy and His blessing. So this is what is being said in the prayer while you are praying and worshiping Allah every single time, and it is problematic. That's what David is arguing, and I think John brought this up as well, that in the middle of prayer, in the middle of worship, you are suddenly speaking to Muhammad. Yeah. And these guys are now saying, well, yeah, we are speaking to him, but he doesn't directly hear us, so we are not directly worshiping him, because it, according to our understanding, the angel Jibreel comes and delivers that to him from us.
So, AP, think about this. So, according to what these guys just said, and they can answer us here, I could sit down and I could bow down in prayer, and I could say, "Hey, God, Dad, Mom, great grandma, all of you who've passed on. Hey, I just want to talk to you all right now. You know, God, Dad, Mom. I just want to keep talking to you all and tell you all, listen, And as long as if you ask me about it later, hey, why are you talking to your dead relatives in your prayers? I could just say, but I don't believe they hear me. Yeah, I speak to them, but I believe, an angel shows up and then comes and says, hey, guess what David just said? But that's why I'm speaking directly to them during my prayer. It's so weird here. Like, if these guys saw anyone else in the world from any other religion talking to a man during prayer, they would say, look at this pagan talking to a dead man in their prayers. And if they then went to the person and said, hey, why are you talking to a dead man in your prayers instead of just talking to, and the person said, but I don't believe the person, actually hears me. I believe that angels carry my message to him. That's how I can address him directly. They would understand how pagan that is. And yet, my goodness, man.
What this reminds me of immediately is, so UI George, he made a comment that says, so either way, he ends up hearing it, LOL. But what this reminds me of is how many Muslims, including scholars, react to Catholics or even Orthodox or some strains of Christianity where Mary is venerated and where Mary is talked to, where certain phrases exist, and they even interpret certain Quran verses which talk about, which say Allah will say to Jesus, did you say to the people, take me and my mother as God besides Allah? And they say, well, yes, we know that there was no such Christian group ever, but this is not a mistake because this might be in reference to Catholics who are excessive in their veneration of Mary, such as the Catholics when they, sit down and talk to Mary and so on. But the logic here is exactly the same.
Exactly. And by the way,
Catholics do not teach that Mary is actually, omniscient and everywhere, and that she can actually hear you. They think that because of her closeness to God, you can ask her for intercession and she can actually do this. But it's the same logic here.
Yeah, I actually had I knew a guy who he was also studying. He was in my philosophy classes with me, but he was a priest who was working on a philosophy degree. But I asked him about it. So I don't know if this is like the official Catholic position, but I heard from a priest when I asked him about that. And he said something very similar to what Muslims say. He said, we don't believe that Mary just hears us like she's omniscient. Because that's what I was asking. I was like, wouldn't she need divine attributes if she can hear you wherever you are? And they said that he said, so again, I can't say, I haven't studied Catholic theology, so I don't know if this is standard Catholicism or if this is just guys. Some of you Catholics who are watching can let me know if this is standard thinking. He says he believes that God hears, because what you're actually saying, you're actually asking Mary to intercede for you. So it's God who hears, and then God tells Mary what you've said, and then she can then intercede for you. Any Muslim who hears that would say, what? What is that? That's pagan. You see, this is proof that they worship Mary. You can't do that. And it's like, wait a minute. If Mary's a human being, a very significant human being, and according to Muhammad, Mary was sinless. Mary was sinless according to. So she's even moral. She's morally superior to Muhammad in Islam. But if a Catholic could speak directly to Mary during prayers, not believing that Mary actually hears directly, but that God takes what you've said and shares that with Mary so that she can intercede for you properly. Do you then accept that? According to what these guys said, that should be perfectly acceptable. They should have zero objections to Catholics speaking to Mary during their prayers.
Yeah.
And yet every one of them would say, nope, that's shirk. You're associating a partner with Allah. You shouldn't be talking to Allah you shouldn't be talking to Mary during your prayers and so on. But they do it.
And I wouldn't go ahead and I wouldn't go and say, so what I'm saying here is, what I'm not saying is, I wouldn't say that that Catholics do worship or pray to Mary. That's technically, as I see it, that's not what they're doing. And Muslims are not worshiping or praying to Muhammad. But we have an issue here when Muslims specifically have a ritual 5 times a day where they are supposed to detach themselves from everything and dedicate themselves to worshiping Allah. That is the ritual 5 times a day. And in that ritual, you start saying, and peace be to you, O Muhammad, O Prophet. then that is kind of weird, right? That kind of looks like you are engaging in an act of worship, in an act of, you are mixing him into you're addressing him while addressing God, while addressing Allah. So it just gets kind of weird if you then want to come out of that and say, oh, no, that's not a problem, because we are talking to him, but he cannot hear us. It is delivered to him in a different way. You cannot use that excuse when you also accuse other people who believe in such a thing of committing shirk.
Yeah. So the point here, once again, is be consistent. If you're going to, if Muslims, if you're going to accept the explanation this guy just gave, this Muslim just gave, oh, Muhammad isn't here. The angel, we speak directly to Muhammad, but then an angel carries it to them. Okay, so you could speak to any dead person like that, right? You just and you would have no objections to Catholics speaking directly to Mary. Mm-hmm. You would have no objections to a person speaking to his dead relatives during prayer. So you can say God, great grandma, Mary. You could say all of that, and it would be no problem whatsoever, because only God and the angel Gabriel. By the way, he said the angel Gabriel, right? It is okay. Muslims are praying around the world. Are you following this, AP? You see where I'm going with this, AP?
Yes.
Muslims are praying around the entire world. So you said, oh, we don't believe Muhammad is everywhere and therefore has an attribute of Allah. Okay, fine, granted. If the angel Gabriel is hearing Muslims all around the world, and even if a Muslim went to Mars, the angel Gabriel would be there hearing his prayers so that he can rush it over to Muhammad. Okay, what divine attribute would that mean that the angel Gabriel had? That seems like he would be required. If anywhere in the universe a Muslim is praying, Gabriel's there listening so he can run it back to Muhammad. Doesn't that mean that Gabriel is omnipresent? Or perhaps omniscient, like he knows what everyone everywhere is saying? Or are you now going to say that it's not Gabriel who hears everything, it's Allah? Allah hears it, and then he shares it to Gabriel, who then runs it to. And by the way, how busy is Gabriel? If you've got 1.8 billion people, now all of them don't pray, but suppose hypothetically we get to a point where all 1.8, 1.92 billion, whatever, Muslims are all praying, and Gabriel's firing back and forth between Gabriel's flying back and forth between everyone all this time to carry your messages to Muhammad. Too, you think Muhammad's really interested? I mean, think from Muhammad's perspective, Gabriel is showing up like 1 million times per second to tell him about these prayers to him. You think Muhammad wants to hear that?
Muhammad is like, oh, shut up.
I heard it already. But I mean, notice, right? Listen to what these guys are just saying, because they act like they treat like Muhammad. Yes, of course, he's a very important person, but he's still just a human being. Wait, you've got the omnipresent angel Gabriel. According to this guy's explanation, the omnipresent angel Gabriel is spending all day, every day, relaying messages of peace to Muhammad. And this is just a mere human being, right? The angel Gabriel can do nothing at all anymore except relay messages to Muhammad.
But why is it so weird? Why is it so strange? Because we also have Santa, for example. Santa does the very same thing. People ask Santa for presents, and Santa goes around and he hears all of those wishes for Christmas presents, and he also, for every human out there, he delivers their presents if possible. But of course, you could say maybe Santa has his elves. They do it for him. Like, they go back and forth. They help him do that stuff. Maybe in the same sense, Jibril also has his elves, angels, who do the same job for him. So maybe, I don't know. So what is so absurd about this?
Yeah, and you other YouTubers who are watching, and you were coming up asking for topics. There's a topic. So how is Angel Gabriel the Santa Claus of Islam? And then you just go through what we just said. You go through the Muslim explanations of how Gabriel brings all these messages to Muhammad. But I mean, it's so, like, again, if they saw any other religion doing this, if they saw any other religion where the best of the angels does nothing but relay messages of peace in the form of direct address of worshipers from around the world all speaking directly to this dead guy, they would see the problem immediately. But all you have to do is say, nope, it's pure monotheism.
L is here. You should come on here too sometime. Seriously, L.
We should watch L's video at some point.
Maybe.
Yeah.
12 watch said Apostate, Prophet, and David Wood. Will you guys debate a Jewish scholar anytime soon? We'd love to see it. I'm waiting for that. Why? Why would I do that?
Yeah. Why wouldn't you get someone who actually studies Judaism, like Michael Brown or someone else?
Yeah. I don't know. No, but interesting. But thank you. Proving Islam said, David, I asked you before for a debate on if the Prophet is in the Bible, and you told me to ask you later. Now that a month has passed, would you be interested? Maybe ask later.
Yeah, you're gonna have to ask later. And this isn't me making fun. It's I know all the stuff I have to do in the next month to wreck Islam, and so you're gonna have to get in line.
Yeah.
That's and he said, just to be clear, Proving Islam seems like a nice guy. He approached me nicely and stuff. So I will actually have it. So yeah, but
I know I'm just being lighthearted.
Right,
yeah, I'm not doing any mockery or anything here. Okay, so don't shoot me for this. Just one thing that I want to quickly address here before we move on. Grace174 said, which Muslim are you honestly most scared of debating? I know David is scared of every single Muslim out there.
Yeah, wet my pants. Even though we keep inviting these guys to join us live, we're all terrified.
Yeah, I'm only scared of Mohammed Hijab. Yeah, I'm very, very scared. Very scared. I don't know what to do. I would never ever have the guts to debate him. I have to use the toilet whenever I hear him speak.
And Ali Dawa, especially Ali Dawa.
Especially Ali Dawa. Terrible. Yeah. No. I'm not scared of it. There's no reason to be scared of anyone. I'm open to anybody. Honestly.
Yeah, with these guys, it's more like, really, it's just some brand new popular da'i, and your only concern is what form of deception is he going to use. Before you've seen them, you don't know which form of deception they're going to use, and so you kind of have to figure that out. Once you figured it out, they tend to not debate anymore. Like who's Mohammed Hijab been debating since everyone figured out what his tricks are? Has he debated at any time? Notice, I don't think Hijab would debate someone unless it's someone who has no clue who he is and no clue what his tactics are. But it's the same thing with Zakir Naik. What did Zakir Naik do? Like 20 some years ago, he debated two people no one's ever heard of before, and then never debated again. Why? Because as soon as you know what his tactics are, you're going to be onto him. So he won't step on stage with anyone else. So the only people you'd be at all concerned about is some new guy who comes along and no one knows what his particular deceptions are going to be, and someone's going to come along, do a couple debates, and then disappear from the debate scene because now people are onto him. But those are the only people you're concerned about, is like being the first in line to debate some new guy before you figure out what the tricks are.
Did you ever respond to Zakir Naik? He made a video about you. There is a video clip of him saying David Wood doesn't have the caliber to debate Dr. Zakir Naik.
Yeah, apparently no one does, because he's never debated one actual Christian debater in his entire career, and yet they all think he did.
How did you not take the opportunity and respond to him and use this? I don't understand.
Because
the great Zakir Naik.
You made a response, but I mean, I've been calling him out for years, and my response has never been, "Hey, why don't you have to debate me?" It's, could you at least face one actual Christian debater in your entire career? And it's not me saying, hey, this guy has to debate. It's because back in the day, you used to get a 50 or 100 messages a day. Why you would never say this to Zakir Naik because he would destroy you. And I would
we still get that. I still see it in the comment sections.
Yeah, it's like what kind of fantasy land do you live in their minds, in the minds of your average person online, the average Muslim online really thinks Zakir Naik debated Christians a long time ago, and ever since, Christians have been on the run from him, and no Christian will dare say anything in front of him because we know we would all get destroyed. In reality, he debated a couple of people that he knew he could steamroll as far as rhetoric, even though his points are all stupid, and then he's never agreed to debate anyone after that because he knows he'd get destroyed. And so everyone's challenged him. Nabil challenged him. Jay Smith challenged him. Sam Shamoon challenged him a bunch of times. James White challenged him a bunch of times. I challenged him a bunch of times.
You're finished.
What Christian debater hasn't challenged Zakir Naik? What challenges does he accept? So anyway, it's just a fantasy world.
Anyway, we will never get through this video. Let's continue. Okay.
Is that we would have to believe the Prophet can hear and that he's all hearing, or that he's worthy of praise like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. But no, we're saying, may Allah send praise upon you and the angels delivering it to him. There is no logical problem with that. There's only a logical problem with his articulation.
That's a good
of
rule.
It.
Okay.
So I hope that makes sense. I hope that's clear,
we talked about this.
But,
so
but he just granted that in order for he just said in order for Muhammad to hear all of these direct addresses to him, he would have to be all hearing. Okay, but this is the guy who just said the angel Gabriel carries the messages to. So according to him, the angel Gabriel would have to be all hearing.
I would say maybe I will be a devil's advocate here and say what they could say in response to that is that angels are not beings that have a personality and act on their own. Their will is entirely in Allah's sense, so they're completely acting on behalf of Allah. So I don't know. That doesn't even make sense if you actually think.
No, it doesn't, because you could just say that now that Muhammad's dead, he's in the same category or something like that, or in a similar category of. So I don't know.
Whatever.
The point is, this is guys. It's very simple. Given the things you say when you look at every other religion in the world, what you just said about Islam is a horrible, awful defense.
Yeah.
And so take your pick. Either stop using the objection against other religions or use the same objection against yourself.
Happy Camper said, what do you expect the rate of apostasy to be like over the next 5 to 10 years? Seems like apostasy floodgates have opened. Thanks, AP and David Wood. I would say nobody leaves Islam ever. Islam is the only religion that nobody ever leaves. And all those who leave were never true Muslims to begin with. So therefore, it's going to be zero.
Yeah, I'd have to say I think it's going to keep accelerating, because I mean, it used to be like, when I started, it was Zachariah Boutros and Brother Rashid and not a lot of others. And when I started doing it, I was like the guy on YouTube doing it, the American on YouTube, and there was like Samuel Green down in Australia and Tony Costa in Canada. The point is there were very few people. Now they're everywhere, and it's tons of ex-Muslims who are actually criticizing Islam. And again, you've got the sheikhs crying on screen in Pakistan about all the apostasy. And it's like, what do you think it's going to be?
It is going to become an avalanche.
An avalanche.
Okay, let's move on. You talked. Jerusalem Jim said that you talk too much.
We'll go somewhere else at Jerusalem Jim. Literally click on a live stream of us and don't want us to talk.
I'm trying to be very impartial to this.
Stop it. You are not trying to be impartial.
I'm being objective and impartial. As an impartial, objective observer of all of this, I have to say.
You can say I'm trying to be fair, but I mean, it's without having any hostility or anything. Nobody believes that you're trying to be impartial. But I'm sorry. I'm not saying you're lying. I'm just saying that is. I don't think that makes sense.
And then the other one,
to be clear, he actually made 3 because he did say worship, but I addressed the worship question too here in a second. So just to be clear, but go ahead.
Oh, and yeah, the other thing I was focusing on is Muslims they would say they don't pray to Muhammad, but they speak directly to Muhammad during their prayers. There's a part of their prayers where they say, peace be upon you, O Prophet. Notice.
Okay, do you know what he's talking about? Which part?
Yeah. Assalamu alayka ayyuha an-nabi wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Peace
be upon you, O Prophet.
There you go. The other guy, wait. The other guy didn't know what I was talking about?
He didn't know, yeah.
And this guy had to explain to him, yes, that we do say that.
Yeah. I mean, you can have that's the funny thing. When you are told about this, you might stop for a second and think, wait a minute, I never thought about this.
I actually find that almost every Muslim I bring this up, they've memorized the prayers and never once thought about what they're actually saying. Like they've never thought about it.
To be very honest, I prayed for many years and I understood the meanings of those things for many years. But I mean, for those many years, I never actually thought about the logic behind that. It only appeared weird later on. Yeah.
Conversation between Rasulullah and Allah?
No, it's not.
I believe that's the origin of it. But what he's saying is that we are saying this while we pray. We are saying while we pray.
Yeah.
Assalamu alayka, ayyuha nabi. Peace be upon you, O Prophet. Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And the mercy of Allah and His blessings. Which someone mistranslated it to say that it says, may the prayers be upon you. That's not what it says.
No.
Assalamu alayka. It's like saying assalamu alaikum. It's like saying salam, peace. And again, we don't believe the Prophet can hear us. The angel delivers it to him.
Exactly. This is what the angel was saying to Rasulullah.
Yeah, so it's not an issue. And on top of that,
it's not an issue. Again, what they just said, now you can everyone, just to be clear, now you can speak to anyone during your prayers, any dead person, you can speak directly to them. Again, you're not talking to God about them. You speak directly to them. And they're fine with that. By the way, notice even in their prayers, it's peace be upon you, O Prophet, speak directly to him, and then also upon us, speaking about the people there, and all the messengers. So they speak about the messengers in third person, but they speak in the second person, the language of direct address when speaking to Muhammad. So even with other prophets and so on, it's God, send your peace upon them. But you, Muhammad, peace be upon you. That is again, it just be consistent. If you say it's no problem speaking directly to a person because angels can carry the messages to the person, you don't believe that person's actually omniscient or all hearing or anything like that, fine. Do not complain when anyone else does this in their religion, ever.
Yeah.
Or if you have a problem with it, then renounce Islam.
So again, there's no issue with that. I don't know why he's making such incredulous arguments, but I believe he is an incredulous person. Let's continue, inshallah. Fiber, are you struggling with the thing?
I'm trying to figure this out, bro. That's why I have it in studio mode so no one can see.
I think
how do we do the thing where you just?
I think they're going to address the logic of worshiping God, worshiping a man or worshiping God.
They speak directly to Muhammad. So a Muslim praying and a Muslim.
Okay, we got over that. We beat that to death.
Joke. I want to be respectful, inshallah, so I'm going to continue.
Wait.
He falls into logically. But I mean, actually, I'm not going to make a joke. I want to be respectful, inshallah, so I'm going to continue.
Whoa.
I'm not going to make a joke.
A little bit, because I kind of covered this stuff already.
That's it. But anyways, go ahead.
I want to hear what
John directly to grandma who's dead in my prayers. That's speaking to someone else in my prayers. And so anyway,
okay. Again, makes a false equivalency. I debunk that.
You guys have anything you want to add, or should we continue this clip?
Well, I want to say...
I was just going to say, I put a bunch of verses on the screen too, so that's it. But anyways, go ahead.
I think he wants to remain in the.
Even if we grant the whole idea that you technically do not worship or do not pray to Muhammad, so you could just excuse the whole sending blessings and prayers and whatever it is. It is still weird. I mean, he doesn't really explain why it is absurd, to worship or to pray to a man, and he cannot really properly draw a distinction.
I'm sorry. Does Sneeko really need to explain why it's wrong to pray to a man?
Yes. I'm sorry. You might find it absurd, but yes, he has to. In order to, I mean, he doesn't have to, of course, but if he wants us to perceive it as absurd to worship a man or to pray to a man, then you should probably explain to us what exactly is wrong about it. I made a tweet about this earlier in which I addressed this very, very roughly and said that people act like it is logically evident that you should only have this Islamic understanding of God and worship. But it's not. There is no logic behind it. It is not logically clear. It is not logically required, necessitated, logically evident that God must be, apart from anything else, only one in nature, that his nature cannot be triune or even more. It is not logically evident that there can't be many gods. It is not logically evident that the non-existence of God is, obviously false. None of this is logically evident. You would have to explain why it is absurd. It is just, I mean, isn't that quite easy of a remark and of a requirement, of something to ask here? I don't get it. Why do they act like, oh, this is so silly? No, it's very clear why praying to a man is wrong. Okay,
yeah, I would. I mean, I obviously think it's really weird to pray to someone who is a weird human, is a mere human being, in the sense that this would be someone who has no ability to hear prayers or to answer prayers or anything like that. So the real for me, the real, which would go along with what you just said, in the sense of, no, you really need to clarify this. If you're saying the incarnate God takes on a human nature, and then, as Jesus of Nazareth tells his followers, this is in the Gospel of John, he tells them, whatever you ask, he says he's going away, and he says, whatever you ask in my name, I will do it. And he's the one who, together with the Father, is going to send the Holy Spirit and so on. But he's talking about himself answering prayers. Okay, here's God incarnate saying that he entered creation. Now he's going back to the Father. And he says they should be happy because from there he can answer prayers. And you say, so if you say, no, because he's a man, you should not pray to him, then you need to clarify what you're saying. If you're saying, no, under no circumstances whatsoever, even if it's God incarnate, under no circumstances can you ever pray to anything that has anything to do with a human nature. If you want to lay that down as a rule, AP is that you need to explain your rule. You need to explain your rule. And beyond that, please then explain why the moment we point out, hey, you guys speak directly to Muhammad in your prayers, you guys have no problem with it.
Here's the thing, David. Here they are actually doing what they accuse us of, and they are deliberately, or maybe because they don't understand, misrepresenting the intention behind Christians, worshiping Jesus, for example, where they are acting like worshiping a mere human is bad, because you obviously know that this is just a human. But that's not what Christians do. Christians don't just worship a regular human while also believing that he's just a human. They worship this. They worship the person there because they believe that he is God, and he took the role of a human for the time that he was among the people. So you are then therefore not worshiping just a man who is just a man by nature. You're worshiping God, who temporarily, I don't want to get into the whole deal of explaining the nature of Christ here, but who then temporarily appears in the shape of a human being. There is a clear distinction to make here, but they are acting like Christians are just worshiping a regular man. That's not what's going on here.
Yeah, it's so again, ladies and gentlemen, if someone came from an island tribe who had never seen Christians or Muslims, and they walked up to Christians and said, Christians, why are you speaking directly to Jesus in this prayer when you should only be speaking to God that way? And we would say, because he's God. If you then went to Muslims and say, Muslims, during your prayers, why are you speaking directly to Muhammad? They go, because the angel Gabriel's going to carry these. It's like, well, why aren't you speaking to the angel Gabriel about Muhammad then? Like, isn't that weird? Why aren't you speaking to God or the angel Gabriel about Muhammad if he's not actually
deliver the salam to
Jibril? Would you guys have a problem with that? I mean, he's the one who hears you, right? According to these guys, he hears everything you say. This is so weird.
Deliver the salam and the salad to Muhammad.
So we have Allah and the angel Gabriel, who are the all-hearing. Interesting.
Yeah. But that's an exception, because obviously, in the Quran, it is also only Allah and Jesus who give life for no reason, because Allah gave Jesus the permission to do it.
Someone said Jibril the hamster, like gerbil, I guess.
Or to worship a man. Forget pray, because he didn't even say that. He said worship. Does he need to explain why it's wrong to worship a man?
Yes.
People in the comments, even non-Muslims, do you need an explanation on why it's wrong to worship a man?
Yes.
Do I need to explain why 1 + 1 = 2?
Complete false equivalence.
Those are
Everybody should immediately notice that this is not how you philosophize. This is not how you do this. This is completely a false equivalence here.
Do I need to explain why I enjoy when it's sunny out? These are basic things.
Look,
you don't worship a man because they're not worthy of worship.
Here's a chance.
They're a man just like you. So if they're worthy of worship, you should be worthy of worship as well. Now, if you say,
okay, but again, you're making a mistake here, and you are probably even aware of it. Christians are not just worshiping a man. Christians are not just worshiping a man, a regular man. That's your definition of what they're doing, but that's not what they are doing. So if you have a problem with people saying Muslims worship Muhammad because technically that's not what you're doing, then you shouldn't do the same thing and accuse Christians of just worshiping a regular man, because that's not what they're doing. It's that simple. Yeah.
Say, oh, well, they're divine or whatever. Bring your evidence. And even that would be a contradiction, because who was God? All-knowing. And if you look at Jesus, for example, Jesus was not all-knowing. He didn't know the hour. All-powerful.
This is so weird. I mean, these are things that were discussed in the first centuries of Christianity. These are questions that were closed in the first century. I know this. They should know this too. Why do they still keep going to that same thing? Jesus didn't know the hour. Dude, I mean, if you go through through the history of the church, it is very evident that this was a topic that was discussed lengthily, beaten to death. Why are you here acting like, oh, Christians never thought about this? Look at this. I just discovered a huge mistake, a huge logical problem with Christianity. Christians never ever thought about this. Christianity debunked. What are you doing, man?
Yeah, and you pointed out that in their responses they sort of ignore Christian theology and then respond as if Jesus is just a human and as if God is this Unitarian monad and so on. And it's like, guys, okay, assume hypothetically. Now we know Sneeko has a problem with hypotheticals. I don't know if these guys do. Suppose hypothetically that Christian theology is correct, that God exists eternally as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and that the Son enters creation as Jesus, takes on a human nature as Jesus of Nazareth, and then, like, what's he going to do there? Is he going to become an atheist, or is he going to continue the eternal relationship he's had with the Father for again, he's had this relationship with all. If he actually entered into creation, took on a human nature, is he going to become an atheist, or is he going to continue speaking to the Father? How would he speak to the Father? That would be through prayer, right? And if taking on this human nature, he accomplishes his mission and then says, "Oh, by the way, I'm going back," and says, "And you can talk to me during prayer, and I can answer your prayers because I'm God." Assuming that's correct, what is the logical absurdity with saying, "Okay, we worship Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and so yes, we worship Jesus"? What's the absurdity? The answer is, you can believe it's never happened. You can argue that it never happened, that God isn't a Trinity, or that God didn't enter creation as Jesus of Nazareth. You can make those claims, but you can't say it makes no sense for us to pray to Jesus or to speak to Jesus during prayers. You can't say that makes no sense given our theology. So what happens is they completely ignore our theology. They pretend it's not our theology. They assume their theology and then respond to our claims based on their theology, which we reject. And then they act like we've got this logical absurdity here. And then they completely ignore that they speak directly to Muhammad, and they offer all these, but the all-knowing, omniscient, omnipresent angel Gabriel is doing all of this stuff that you said. By the way, just I can't get over that point. Of course we wouldn't say Muhammad hears all of these prayers. That would be absurd, because that would make him all hearing, and that's an attribute of Allah. So no, we wouldn't say that about Muhammad. We'll say that about the angel Gabriel. The angel Gabriel, yes, he's all hearing and all knowing and omnipresent and so on. So yeah, we're just saying that about him, but Allah has no partners.
By the way, I want to point out that that there are lots of Muslims in the world who actually do believe that Muhammad that Muhammad can hear them when they are speaking to him. Of course, I would say that those people who are most often mysticists, Sufis, would be considered engaging in shirk, in blasphemy, by these guys, but then they would also count them among Muslims. So it's kind of strange.
And I mean, keep in mind, I mean, if Allah is, spends Muhammad's entire life like satisfying every perverted desire he comes up with, why couldn't he make him so that he can hear all prayers or something like that? Why not? Like Allah, if Allah made the angel Gabriel so that he can simultaneously hear all prayers everywhere, no matter where they are, why couldn't he give that ability to Muhammad?
I want to quickly say, I don't want to be a Christian apologist here, but when they say that Jesus, that it is quite clear that Christians are worshiping a man who didn't know the hour and who also prayed and so on. You can add to that if you want. I just want to briefly say there is this has been discussed for centuries. There is clear theology on this. For example, that Jesus is when he is saying that in a voluntarily chosen human limitation, where he acts merely as a human and not as divine. And then there have been lots of explanations on how what the nature of Jesus is and why that is the case. And then there are different alternative explanations, and different Christian ideas, different Christian theologies have had different explanations to these. But this is not the dunk that you guys think it is.
Yeah. So yeah, you have several scenarios. So you could ask. We could get Anthony on here. There's a longer explanation that has to do with Jewish marriage rituals and so on like this, which the immediate surrounding listeners would have understood. So that's the claim that Jewish listeners would have understood what he's talking about here. But even what you just said, that's pretty straightforward in terms of if you read Philippians 2, if you read John 1 about the incarnation, you get the indication that Jesus is voluntarily limiting himself in the use of divine attributes. But notice, even in the passage they go to, so there are several things that here. There are several things that work here. Even in the passage you go to, Jesus is higher than the angels, because he says of that day or hour no man knows, not even the angels, not even the Son, but only the Father. Right there. Now notice what he just said. Right? He presents this hierarchy. Hierarchy? What? I'll leave this religion. But normal human beings? No. They don't know it. Not even the angels. Not even the Son. So he's above all human beings and above all angels. He's above everything in this, and it's only the Father. But notice he's saying that in his incarnate state, where of course he lowered himself to the level of humanity, but even in his lowered state, he's still greater than all human beings and greater than the angels. So that's one interesting thing. The other thing is, things like this are actually used as arguments for the preservation of Scripture. So notice Muslims think that Christians just tweak their scriptures whenever we want, and we can rearrange things. But think about this, Muslims. If Christians felt free to change scriptures, then once you have a fully developed Christian theology, wouldn't you go back and change things like this? But they didn't. Why? Because they didn't feel comfortable. They didn't feel comfortable changing their scriptures like you think they did. So it kind of completely destroys your beliefs about what Christians were doing with their scriptures. And
they deliberately didn't change it because that's exactly what they want you to think.
Yeah, yeah, they did it on purpose, knowing that I would use this argument later. One third thing that's actually pretty interesting. Think about this, Muslims. Do you have the Quran? Do you have the complete Quran?
How dare you question this?
Now think about this. According to Islam, Allah revealed all of these passages in the Quran, and some of them were taken out and abrogated. So I think they're lost and forgotten because we have passages where they talk about just forgetting it because they forgot to recite them, or because the only people who had passages memorized died in battle. But whenever we go to these sources which say that entire chapters of the Quran came up missing, or that hundreds of verses from this chapter were missing, Muslims say, that's because they were all abrogated. Okay, so they are in like the eternal Quran. Allah's eternal Quran contains all of these verses. And yet, in the, let's call it the incarnate version that you have, the version of the Quran that you have that is now a physical copy of the Quran, does this physical copy of the Quran contain everything, all of the knowledge and information that is in the eternal Quran? The answer is no, it doesn't. Indisputably, it doesn't. There's more information in the eternal Quran than in the incarnate Quran, the actual physical Quran that you have. So think about this, because it's another situation where if you have a problem with us, you got a problem with your own theology. There is information in the eternal Quran that is not in this Quran. And yet you would say, this is the Quran that Allah wants you to have. This is the information. This is the information that Allah limited you to. So this is what you need from this incarnate Quran, but there's more in the eternal Quran. Do you have exactly what you're supposed to have? So is it possible for Allah to limit information in his incarnate Quran that is still somehow the complete Quran, contains everything you need to know? So why could, I'm saying this, so you have the Quran, which is the eternal word of Allah. It's the eternal word of Allah. And yet what you have, Allah has limited some of your knowledge of what that eternal word is. So he didn't give you the complete word. Some of it is now only with Allah. You don't have it, but you'd still have the complete word of Allah, as far as like the incarnate version is still what you have. Okay, so if the second person of the Trinity enters creation and voluntarily limits himself to what is for us, what's your problem with that? No, he can never do that. No, it's like all or nothing. Either you have it all or.
I don't think he even actually acknowledges that part.
Who's that?
He completely ignores that. I mean, this guy, just like many other Muslims, they even entirely ignore the whole, voluntary limitation of Jesus or all the other, theological explanations to it. They completely ignore the explanations to it and just act like, oh, look, Jesus obviously didn't know the hour, therefore this clearly shows that he's not God, and therefore Christians are worshiping a man, and they even know this. It is disingenuous, and it's not very honest. And yeah, I mean, whatever, man. Fatima Johnson said, "Can I join your reaction team? I promise I am a mistress debater." Yes.
Apologies, all powerful. No. He said, anything that I do, basically, I'm going to paraphrase, but he says, anything that I do is from the Father. And without the Father, I can't do it.
Not what he said.
To him why why it is submit to a man without him there, between why it is then okay to simply submit to a man without praying to him or without worshiping him. So we don't even have the logic of why it is
you don't need the logic.
So he has to explain that, but that's the whole problem with all of his reasoning. He never actually explains the logic behind why the Islamic theology makes more sense to him, why
because he doesn't know anything.
Only the Islamic sense of God and not the Christian sense of God makes more sense to him. He doesn't explain any of these things. He just says, it makes sense to me. I feel like this is good.
It's funny. The comment on the screen is exactly what these guys keep doing too, right? Like they do the same thing in the sense, like the commenter here is pointing out that it's like he'll flip out at something John says. Oh, he's not answering this, and then he immediately goes on to answer it. But these guys do the same thing. They keep saying, they're not addressing these other points. And then John goes on to
need to do more than that. Why? Let me ask you that question. Why does it need to do more than that for you? He's not an academic. He's not a debater. He just started practicing Islam. Why does he need to explain it to you? And maybe he understands it better than he can articulate it. Why is this a problem for you? And also, why does it need to explain why one God is
he asking?
And makes more sense than a three-in-one God who's man and son of God and God himself?
Did he even say that he has a problem with the 3-in-1? I didn't recall that. Was he saying that's his? I want a simpler God. I want a simpler God.
No.
I mean,
no.
By the way,
he was just saying, I think was just saying, I have a problem with worshiping a man as God, and I then said he first needs to explain why that is not right, and why it is right only to adhere to the Muslim understanding of God. And then this guy comes and says, well, why does he have to explain it? And why is it not obvious that one God is simpler and better but this is just he himself adding this. It's not something that Sneeko actually said.
Yeah, because then he acts like, oh yeah, why can't Sneeko have a problem with God being 3 and 1? I didn't recall him saying.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if he said that anywhere else, but that's not what he was talking about. That's not what he was talking about here. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is so simple. I don't want to submit to a man. Okay, Islam requires you to submit to a man. Oh, why does he have to explain it? He doesn't. He doesn't have to explain anything, but to act like we're bad for pointing out that his reason that he gave for converting is completely false. It's completely wrong. What do you want us to do? I mean, guys, notice the reverse. If a Muslim converted to Christianity and we're saying completely ridiculous things, would Muslims feel comfortable responding to? Of course they would. They jump all over it. You see, this is why people convert to Islam. I mean, convert to Christianity because they don't know anything. Ha ha. But somehow their guy can stand up, say, here are my 5 reasons for becoming a Muslim. All of those can be completely false, and they're saying, shut up about it.
Okay, let's move on. We will never get through.
It's still
You're not going to get through the rest of this.
Skip all the intermediaries. None of this. No worshiping Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. None of this. I don't know where. Obviously these are mistranslations and these are poor arguments.
I want to come to this part.
Did some questionable things.
Are you against grooming?
Yeah, it's gross.
How do you feel about the fact that Muhammad married a 9-year-old girl?
I don't know how true that is.
But I don't think any Muslims deny it.
If that's true, then he's not. Then nobody's perfect.
So if Sneeko,
I don't know why they put this on their screen. This is very haram. But yeah.
doesn't have a problem with submitting to a man like Muhammad.
Yeah, why didn't they blur that girl out?
According to him, wasn't morally perfect. Then why would he have a?
That was before I reverted to Islam. She's asking me questions that I didn't know the answer to. I was saying that I was thinking about Islam. This is before, and I understand now that a lot of the time the parents have better decision-making abilities than the woman, and it was a different time. And Muhammad, peace be upon him, was definitely not a pedophile. He had many wives. A lot of them were older than him. I think his first wife was 50 when he was 25. And he was friends with Aisha, peace be upon her. He was friends.
I quickly want to remark that is not really true. So the Muslim idea is that his first wife was 40 when he was 25, but there is no actual evidence to that. This is just a later narration by Muslim scholars. But look at this now. Look at this.
Friends with her parents. So I don't think that that's an example of pedophilia.
He said Aisha, peace be upon her. That's funny.
I don't think. It doesn't matter what you think.
I mean, think about that logic though, right there.
Sorry, let me call that out. What did Ridwan say? I think it doesn't matter what you think.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, let's keep that in mind for the end of the stream. I have a very special clip I want to show about him towards the end, inshallah.
No. Oh, go ahead.
He wanted to, because I say there in response to him saying, I don't think that that's pedophilia. And I said, I don't think, it doesn't matter what you think. He called that and said, so he said this year, okay, I want to save a clip that I will show later. He eventually didn't show the clip. I started interacting with him. What he took from here was that I was remarking that it doesn't matter what Sneeko thinks because it is always bad, but that's not what I was really saying. What I was referring to is pedophilia. It doesn't matter whether Sneeko thinks it is pedophilia or not. It simply is. So he later understood that and thought, okay, that's fair enough. I will not play anything, and I will not, take you out of context. But go ahead.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to point out, and besides that, our views are completely irrelevant to the point John was making. What John was saying in his response to Sneeko is, okay, you say you have a problem submitting to a man, but Islam also requires you to submit to a man. So it's obvious that at the end of the day, you are okay with submitting to a man. But if you're okay with submitting to a man, then hypothetically assume that Jesus isn't God, because you reject that. If you believe that Jesus is just a man, okay, you've got two men. If you wanted to submit to one of them, why would you pick Muhammad over Jesus if you were just going to submit to a man? He says, according to Islam, Jesus was sinless. According to Islam, Muhammad was not sinless. Jesus is born of a virgin. Muhammad wasn't. You've got all these different, Jesus the Messiah, Muhammad was. Jesus performs all these miracles. Muhammad doesn't. Why are you submitting to this guy? And even you regard him as an imperfect sinner. How do I know you regard him as an imperfect sinner? Well, you've said that he's not perfect because he married a young girl. So John points all that out. And then Sneeko updates his claim and says, yeah, but now since I've become a Muslim. Now I know that it's okay to marry a little child, because that's the first thing they told me is now you can marry you got to pray 5 times a day, and you can marry a little kid. You can marry a prepubescent little kid. So, but notice that the point is not like our views on pedophilia could be completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
You're the one, Sneeko, who said this is bad. You're the one who said marrying a kid is gross. You said that. So according to you, why did you then submit to the guy that you've already said is gross?
They're going to explain what they think about that. So
because apparently, when it comes to moral issues, it doesn't matter what you think, and you have.
So they got this wrong. This is not what I was saying. I don't think that's true.
Wait, these guys got something wrong? Shocker.
To be fair, they actually acknowledged that later, because I appeared in the comment section and I explained it to them, and they were actually very, very understanding of that.
Plus, by the way, in the clip responses,
John say, obviously he was. Bring your evidence.
Obviously he was.
Okay, pause. What did John just say? Obviously he was. Bring your evidence. John, bring your evidence. Let me get the definition for you.
Wait, what did he say? Obviously was what?
I think of pedophilia.
To prove I'm not a robot first, okay.
They're laughing. This is so unprofessional. This is very sad.
Wait, what did John say that they said prove that or something?
That they used for that claim, but there it wasn't even about him. She didn't even say he was a pedo. Instead, she said that he was grooming Aisha, which I mean, obviously he was.
Okay, pause. What did John just say? Obviously he was. Bring your evidence, John.
I'll bring it.
This is very weird. What John is saying, it wasn't even about pedophilia. It was about grooming, and obviously Muhammad was. But now this guy, I still don't know what his name is. Please, dear,
anyone know what these guys' names are?
3Muslim guy, I don't know what your name is. I would like to refer to you by your name.
We'll call them 1, 2, and 3. But there's only 2.
Yeah,
why they call them show the 3 Muslim? Now they're saying 2 equals 3.
There was one he dropped earlier because he had technical issues. But he's now instead of going for what John actually said, which is Muhammad was grooming her, he's now going for he took that as Muhammad was a pedophile. He's not even understanding the point that is being made here. John is saying we're not even talking about pedophilia. The point of the clip was Muhammad groomed a little girl, and he was grooming a little girl, and he's taking that wrong.
Let me get the definition for you right now. The definition. I'll have to prove I'm not a robot first, okay, man.
I missed you, man.
They're having some
definition.
Warm, fuzzy moments here.
Here, Rain. Let me go to an official.
What?
Or deceiving.
No way these grown men are serious, bro.
Wait, serious.
Yeah.
We can't be serious about having problem with a 50-some-year-old man having sex with a prepubescent 9-year-old girl. We can't really have a problem with it. There's no way they're serious.
Oh, wait a minute. I think I got that wrong. I think he is looking at the definition of grooming.
Yeah. Okay. Basically, it's the process of coercing.
Okay. No, he's talking about grooming, I think. Yeah.
Or deceiving, or manipulating. Someone.
Manipulating.
Any kind of abuse. I don't want to say and get demonetized, right? And coercing them to be basically with you. That's what it is.
Okay. I got that wrong. I apologize. He's not talking about, he's not looking up pedophilia. He's actually looking up grooming.
And given that definition of grooming, Muhammad was definitely grooming.
Yeah.
Muhammad definitely did that.
Under different pretenses, Muhammad actually did not only do that by convincing the father, but also convincing her.
Inspiring Philosophy pointed that out. As far as the Muslims who say, like Fareed, but as long as you had parental assent, and matter of fact, Sneeko even said that. But the parents know. IP pointed out that the research has shown groomers often go to the parents to groom the parents, to build trust among the parents, so that they can get in good with the child that they want. And so you can look at it either. Muhammad goes up to Abu Bakr, says, I want your daughter. And Abu Bakr said, but we're brothers. And Muhammad says, no, we're just brothers in religion. We're not as close as you think we are. She's lawful for me. And notice, I'm the prophet. I'm saying, give me your daughter. He goes to Aisha. Oh my goodness, Aisha, I had a dream about you. An angel was handing you to me. So notice, he's talking to a little girl, a little 5 or 6-year-old girl.
He was showing
and saying, an angel was handing me to you was handing you to me as a present. And I unwrapped my present and I saw, it's this little girl that God is giving me. Dude, if that's not grooming, if going to the father saying, hey, give me your daughter, I'm your prophet, I get to do what I want, and going to the little girl, oh yes, God has told me that he's giving you to me. If that's not grooming and using your position in order to get some sex, a little girl, what do you mean by grooming?
Let's see.
He just said manipulating. Are you manipulating a little girl when you're saying, hey, little girl, I got a revelation from God in my dream that he wants you to be mine? You're not manipulating a little girl?
Hey, little girl, I got a revelation in my truck.
And a lollipop. I got a lollipop and some puppies and some candy. It's all in my, I don't have a van, but it's in my it's on my camel.
So, dear Muslims, you get what we are saying here, right? That if we don't believe that this guy is actually a prophet, then what we are viewing this is as him using or abusing his role as a prophet, which we don't believe he actually is, in order to make something happen. So that is manipulation. But let's move on and see what they say.
Show me. Bring the full context and show me where he did that.
Anyone who's watching, I have no idea why like everything I watch, I see like 10 different possible videos to make out of it. Those of you who are watching, who are making videos, perfect issue right here. You take this clip of him issuing the challenge, show me that this is grooming. You do that, you quote the sources that are a response to it, you quote the definition of grooming, you show how Muhammad meets the definition of grooming according to that. That's your video. Pow, done.
Yeah.
It advocates for child marriage or immature marriage anywhere.
I got a revelation.
Because the age of maturity is not the age of consent in the West whatsoever. At all.
Yeah. Now I want to deal with.
So even going back to inspiring philosophy, what he actually explained is that the age of consent is set by. Or the age of marriage and the age of consent is set by looking at how and when children develop, when they complete puberty, and then giving it a time of tolerance after which then they can consent. For example, across different Western cultures, they have different ages based on such an idea. But maturity is actually what is.
Yeah, because notice it's interesting because. You want a simple rule, right? You want a simple rule because it's rough to say that it's case by case. Like if you're making a rule from the government, how does the government make a rule that would be like on a case by case basis? Like, okay, first show us when she's reached puberty, then show us, you have to bring your daughter in, drop her pants, show us that she's reached puberty and so on. And then, beyond that, then you have to give her time for her hips to widen and for her breasts to develop and so on. And then you can bring her in and then we can check her and so on. They don't want to do that because that's massively invasive and so on. So they try to make a rule and say, okay, here's when girls tend to reach puberty. Let's take the entire range of ages where girls reach puberty and then try and make a rule beyond that, like sometime after that. And as far as just giving an age. And so to be on the safe side, they'll say 18 or 21 for certain things, and then earlier for if you have consent or something like that, 16 or 17 or something like that, and then you can have parental consent, certain ages and so on. But notice it's not who in the world thinks it's okay to have sex with a 6-year-old. I mean, to marry a 6-year-old, have sex with a 9-year-old prepubescent girl. That's just Islam. Islam is the odd man out here in all of this. So yes, I'll say it is. If you want to say here's the age and a blanket age that we're going to apply to everyone, that's a bit tricky. So it's better to err on the side of more grown than less grown. Islam says, oh, there's a range. Therefore, let's just go with prepubescent. It's just creepy.
You want to see who believes that? You want to see it right now? You want to see it right now? You want to see it right now?
There are signs of physical maturity. It becomes permissible for the husband in Islamic law to have marital relationships or consummate the relation with his bride. And this is the example of the Prophet, peace be upon him.
Do you know what precocious puberty is?
Starting puberty unusually early. Like,
is there anything in Islam that prevents you from, a man marrying a 5-year-old that started precocious puberty?
You can arrange a marriage even as an infant, but that doesn't mean that sex is allowed.
Could a man have a marriage to a 5-year-old consummated if she started precocious puberty?
If she starts showing signs of physical maturity, then yes, that's permissible, as I said.
What about age 4?
If there are signs
3.
So this is something that becomes biologically impossible because
I have a study that shows it goes as early as 11 months.
Well, that's something that the parents would not. See, the thing about Islamic marriage is that parents are involved at these ages, and when you look at the marriage of the Prophet,
so
that's
normal, right?
That's exactly what Sneeko responded. Now that he's converted, it's, well, if the parents know best. So if the parents say you can have sex with my 11-month-old, then who are you to tell them they're wrong, government?
It's true. Wait, somebody said Sneeko is live right now. Let me quickly, before he notices it, put the link to his channel in my description so that he doesn't get very upset about that if he stumbles across this. And if people want to tell him that we are talking about him right now, and that I have even put a link to his Rumble channel in my description, that would be very nice.
I'm going over to his page. Why is everything about like double dates and chatting with girls and so on?
That's what he does. It's funny. Anyway,
it's more head-on.
Grilling reaction.
Really good points, but they didn't address it. And later on, I'm not going to play it because honestly, it's a waste to just give definitions and appeal to fallacy of presentism and all this garbage. But frankly, if you're going to look at a society in the past, you have to look at everything and how they lived. Getting your daughter married was not just like how it is today. Oh, I love him so much, I want to marry him. No, it's a means of protection. It is a means of protection because if the father passes away, they know that their daughter will be taken care of. So
Abu Bakr outlived Muhammad. What? How's that an event?
Like it is nowadays. There are many more implications for marriage back then. Also, for literally basically all of history, except for the last 300 years in the West, when a person hit puberty, they were basically ready for marriage.
Okay.
The Quran. How many times do we have to cover this? 1, Aisha hadn't reached puberty. 2, the Quran. The Quran says you can marry, have sex with, and divorce girls all before they've reached puberty. In fact, you could marry a girl, have sex with her, divorce her. She could wait 3 months. The next guy can marry her, have sex with her, divorce her, make her wait 3 months. The next guy could marry her, have sex with her, and divorce her. A girl can have 7 or 8 sexual partners before she's ever reached puberty in Islam. So why do they keep acting like this is a rule in Islam? Again, Hijab himself said, you just go with the Quran, you get the indication that you can have sex with a 5-year-old. And he said, this is Hijab, says this specifically refers to girls who haven't reached puberty.
So people keep bringing this up and keep saying puberty was the limit. But where exactly does it say in the early Islamic sources, even in the Hadith? Where exactly does it say that you have to reach puberty in order to get married? Where exactly does it set puberty and maturity as the requirement in order to get married?
And if they were to find something, if you were to find Muhammad saying, oh, and by the way, make sure she's reached puberty, wouldn't make any sense because Aisha hadn't reached puberty, according to Bukhari. Aisha hadn't reached puberty. But then notice, if you found Muhammad saying, oh, okay, a girl's got to reach puberty, that would be contradicting what Allah says in the Quran. Allah says you can marry, have sex with, and divorce a girl all before she's ever reached puberty. And therefore, you would be taking a man, his teachings about what's halal and haram above what Allah has said is halal and haram. And you'd be worshiping the man, which I thought is what we're supposed to not be doing here.
Yeah. So And here is the thing. Okay, what they are now doing is that they're trying to bring up this whole idea that we are applying presentism, and Muhammad was living in a different environment, and it was normal there to marry a child and so on and stuff like that. Now, I have lots of problems with that, but I just want to bring up two issues here, or maybe three issues actually. Are you saying that Muhammad's the things that Muhammad did are limited only to that time and environment, and that Muhammad is not a perfect moral character example for all times, and that somebody in today's time cannot do a marriage just like he did with a 6-year-old girl and consummate it when she is 9 years old? If that is what you think, then where exactly are you getting that from? Where exactly is the source for that? Where exactly are you getting this idea from, that this is a rule, that you are not allowed to do this today, that this was only for back then? You cannot get that from anywhere. No such thing exists. So there is no point at all, nothing at all, no reason at all, no justification for you to come and say, oh, this is presentism because things were different back then. This just looks like you're stalling, you're being deceitful here, you're being deceptive here, because it doesn't make any sense. Okay, why exactly are you bringing this up? It has no relevance to the issue at all. Okay, show me one text, show me one hadith, show me one Quran verse which says this was only for back then, this shall not be done in the future under different circumstances. There is no such thing, which is why many Muslim apologists, including many Muslim scholars, and your guy Daniel Kikuchu, who did it very prominently recently, still say that it's okay in today's time to do this, and that it is only considered wrong because Western society started regarding this as something wrong. We criticize Muhammad, especially I criticize Muhammad's role, because he is supposed to be a prophet who is a timeless role model in Islam for all times, because nothing he did and nothing he said can be criticized and can be called wrong according to Islamic beliefs. I don't care what somebody did in a 7th century desert. I don't care at all, right? People did a lot of terrible things in their environment. Maybe let's grant it that it was normal in his time. Let's grant it that it was okay or it was acceptable in his time. And let's say many others did the same thing and he also did the same thing. Okay, I understand. I'm not going to sit here and judge some random character from the 7th century for the things that he did. The same way that I'm not going to judge them for having slaves back then in an environment where slavery was entirely normal when it was practiced. The problem that we have is the timelessness of these morals, the timelessness of the things that they have done, the timelessness of practicing slavery, but the timelessness of the timeless moral example Muhammad, guided by Allah, by the Almighty One, him practicing child marriage, him practicing slavery, and all of these things. He should not be doing these things, because that morality should be applied to today by Islam's standards as well. And that is unacceptable. That here is the problem. None of what you said about presentism and about back then matters. But even if we want to come to that, and I'm not going to talk about that in length, we have lots of evidence to show that contemporary cultures in that time didn't consider it normal to marry at such a young age.
And notice the hypocrisy, by the way, because it sounds like you and I both agree with that there's a problem with this problem of presentism, people judging previous cultures by today's standards and so on. That yes, you can't look at someone from 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, and 4,000 years ago and say, but in our society we condemn that, therefore you should have condemned that too. They're in a different time. So you do take things like that into account. If you're from a culture where some people grow up and something is totally normal, you don't condemn that person in the same way you would condemn a person who grows up and it's not normal, right? So, so we take that into account. But as AP pointed out, this is not some random guy. This is a guy who has Allah's stamp of approval for how people are supposed to live in his eternal speech. Allah has his eternal speech, and he says, follow this guy. And Allah says in his eternal speech, you can have sex with a prepubescent little girl. So these are not localized problems back then. But as far as the hypocrisy goes, notice Muslim apologists will say, hey, it was common during the time of Muhammad for parents to not want daughters and to just throw their daughters in the desert and let their children die. But Muhammad condemned that practice. Like, wait a minute, if that was a common practice, why is Muhammad condemning it instead of engaging in it? Oh, you mean Muhammad can completely go against his culture to bring about something that's even better? That's interesting to know. But then notice it also flips, because guess what? Everyone during Muhammad's time had a problem with him marrying the wife of his own adopted son, right? They viewed that as off limits. If you have an adopted son, his wife is off limits to you, the same as if she were married to your biological son. They all held that as bad. Muhammad went against that, took the wife of his own adopted son, and then Muslims have been trying to defend that ever since. But notice, this is a situation where his culture condemns something as evil, and then he does it anyway. So wait a minute, if Muhammad is just doing what's normal at his time and in his culture, why does he keep changing things? Why does he keep going against what other people regard as wrong? And keep in mind, I would say that the culture was right there. That's messed up. You see the wife of your own adopted son, you start lusting after her, and he gives her to you and so on. That's extremely creepy. The people of his time were right. The people in his time reacted the same way people today would react. We're all in agreement. Muhammad says you're all wrong. So wait a minute. This is a guy who supposedly completely transcends what's right and wrong in his culture. And Muslims defend him by saying, oh, but it was normal during his time in his culture. Weird stuff.
Weird
wild stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Make more super chats, everybody. This is very important. It's very important. If you don't make super chats, then I might have to make a hadith. I might have to say something about those. Whoever does not make a super chat shall be. I don't even know if I can joke about saying horrible things here. Like that could be applied in a fantasy world, but whatever. Yeah. Okay.
Allah gave me a revelation. He was handing all your money to me in the super chats.
That has been the standard. And the only reason it changed is because in the West, Western societies, liberal societies abuse children. I said the word, I'm demonetized now.
Do you think the only reason the age of consent was changed is because how does it even make? I don't even understand. How does it even make sense? The only reason it changed is because Western society was abusing children. The fact of child abuse exists. The fact of early minor marriage exists. Over time, humans come to the acknowledgement that this is actually very bad. They learn, and according to what they learn, they then adopt new ideas and say, guys, what people have been doing for a while now is actually very bad for the child, and therefore, as a conclusion, for the future individual. Therefore, we should do something about this. So let us make a law, and then the age of consent comes into existence. I don't understand what Muslim one is saying here.
Boom. Western societies abuse children, and that's why they had to enforce laws against their own people to protect children.
But wait, what if their parents say it's okay?
Well, according to Sneeko and Daniel Kikachu and many others, if their parents say it's okay, and Fareed, of course, let's not forget Fareed, if their parents consent to it, then it's fine. Yeah, it's a miracle, man. Yeah. Oh, what is this? I'm seeing a super chat here. By Apologetics Roadshow. Oh, I'm getting a revelation here, which says, I had a dream Allah said we all need to give super chats to AP.
I had a revelation.
Yeah, this is good. This is good. I'm going to keep this here so that everyone knows that this is actually a revelation from Allah. And yeah, he's not giving me $100. I'm giving this back to him under the table. Just don't. Yeah.
You didn't have this in Islam. You had the protection of them, and this is all being done on
the protection which caused a father to give his 6-year-old daughter to a 50-year-old man. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be more inclined to protect my daughter from a guy who wants to have sex with her than from what does she need to be protected from, if not from a guy, an old man wants to have sex with her, right? In other words, there are all sorts of dangerous things in the world, ladies and gentlemen. Lightning could strike. In the ancient world, you could have, they're in a desert region. It could be famines and so on. There's all sorts of problems. You got to protect your girl. Okay, if there's a guy who wants to have sex with my little girl, that would probably be pretty high up on the list of things to protect her from.
That's just very Islamophobic and racist.
And for some reason, that's the reason you have to give her to this creepy old dude.
They're just being very hateful and Islamophobic.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, it's another revelation. You shall spend eternity in hell unless you give a super chat to AP.
Looking for this AI illustration that I made of Muhammad and Aisha side by side. Oh yeah, here. Look at this. Always try to visualize what we're actually talking about to add to the disgust that you're having. AI illustration of 50-something-year-old Muhammad here, and 9-year-old Aisha here. This guy comes and goes to the father of this little girl and says, "Hey, I want to marry your daughter, and I think she's ready now to jump in bed with me."
By the way, this is wrong because she would have been like 5 or 6 when that conversation was taking place.
Okay. No,
this is when they're already having sex and so on.
You're right. Let me pull up quickly something here to have that as well. I thought I had that over here somewhere, but anyway. So we this is when she's 9 years old. This is like she already looks very, very old here. You can see she already is a 9-year-old woman, not a 6-year-old child anymore. She's ready now, and Muhammad is now. Oh, now she's ready. Now she's ready. Now you're gonna come in bed with me. This was when she was 6 years old. This girl was 6 years old, and this guy here at that point, his name is Muhammad. He went to the father of this 6-year-old girl and said, "Hey, how about your daughter? I want to marry her. Give me your daughter, because it's Allah's will." And he's like, "No, but we are brothers." And he's like, "Yeah, only brothers in faith, man." And he's like, "Okay, whatever. Yeah, okay, marry my daughter." That's apparently how he protects his daughter. And then 3 years later, she's now 9 years old, and he's like, "Okay, you're ready to go to bed with me and have sex with me." And he's 50-something years old. She's 9 years old, and they are going to bed, and that's Islam.
Nothing weird at all here.
That is Islam.
And notice, I mean, before Sneeko converted, he said this was gross. He said it was gross, and Muhammad's obviously not perfect because of this. After converting, nope, nothing wrong with it. They all. That's how quickly they can indoctrinate someone.
Yeah.
You can go from thinking it's bad for a 50-some-year-old guy to have sex with a prepubescent little girl. You could go from that almost instantly to saying nothing wrong with it, totally fine, just by converting.
Kerr first said AP can't act horny. I didn't even think of deliberately acting horny when I was doing this. I was just trying to act very creepy. So, I don't know. Oh, here's somebody who actually heeded the revelation. Michael Tennant said, "Okay, spare me from hell, David." So
it's not me. I'm just the mailman here, delivering the revelations from the great God Allah. You're safe, Michael. As for the rest of these cheap losers, they're all gonna burn forever.
Yeah.
I had a dream.
It's not me. Not me. Don't blame me for it. This is just me.
Look, hey, listen, everyone. Now, I just got a revelation. The revelation says David is too shy. David is too shy to tell you that you're all going to hell if you don't give AP the super chat. But Allah's not shy, so he's telling you through David that, yeah, you're all going to burn in hell unless you give AP the super chat.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, this is actually a reference to stuff that happens in the Quran. Yeah, all right.
Presence in the authority of her father, who was best friends with the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, as Sneeko even mentioned. So, why is this the fallacy of presentism? One more time. The reason it's the fallacy of presentism is because if they lived, especially Ridwan with his subjective morality, if they lived at that time, they would be doing the same thing. They have literally no problem with it.
No, we wouldn't.
Literally no problem with it.
Maybe I would. Maybe I would. Let's grant the argument. Maybe if I lived in the 7th century in Arabia, and I wasn't such a... Maybe I would. But the issue is, I'm just a regular person living in that time. I'm just some idiot in that time. Just a mere human who is almost a hive mind and does whatever the hive is doing.
Yeah,
that's not supposed to be the case with Muhammad.
And I still haven't seen the evidence that this is, marrying prepubescent girls is totally normal.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Everyone is doing it back then. I mean, notice if you were using this as an argument, I mean, if you're going to say, well, you guys would just do what's normal back then, so we would just throw our daughters out in the desert to let them die because that was normal. What point would you possibly be making by that? Besides that, lots of guys are attracted to women who have breasts and so on, and they don't think of little kids like that, so
I mean, the thing is, I never even go into whether it is true that it was normal back then or not, because it's completely irrelevant to me. It doesn't matter to me at all. Whether it was completely normal or completely out of the ordinary back then, it has no relevance at all to the point that Muhammad is supposed to be the perfect moral example for all times, and he did something that may have been wrong or may have been common back then, but is obviously incredibly harmful, as we can document abundantly today. Yeah, Peter Muchko made a laughter and also saved himself from Allah's hellfire by making a super chat. Thank you for...
You for that $4.99, you will spend eternity deflowering virgins, my friend. Allah hath revealed it to me.
Yeah.
It sounds so stupid when I'm saying this stuff, but I mean, guys, this is basically what Muhammad's running around doing in 7th century Arabia. Fight for me. Go subjugate those people over there. Take all their stuff. Come, bring it back. Give me a fifth of it so I can marry more. And if you do that, then Allah will grant you an eternity forever, an eternity of deflowering little girls forever. Yeah. That's what he wants.
Let's look at this quickly before we move on. I love how so many of these Islamophobes don't have the ability to represent me fairly by calling this child rape. How is it child rape when there is parental consent?
Yeah, so as long as...
To this day, we still don't know the answer to this question.
Notice. So according to Farid, and Daniel said, 11 months, I mean, the parents might not consent. Okay, what if they did consent? So if your parents consent to having sex with an 11-month-old girl, 11 months, not even a year old, she reached precocious puberty. Is there something wrong? The little girl obviously can't consent. She doesn't even speak. And so if you have sex with her, she can't consent. What is that? What is that? We would say if someone's incapable of consent, then it's rape. And these guys would say, no, as long as dad agreed, totally fine. Totally 100% halal certified, according to Daniel Hakikachu, Farid. Oh, my goodness, man. And by the way, I mean, Daniel was still assuming signs of puberty when that's not even what the Quran calls for.
Yeah.
This. So it's like as awful and horrible as what Daniel Hakikachu said is, it's still better than what you find in the Quran, because the Quran, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, Forbidden said, is it murder if the parents consent? Probably not.
Tell me this, bro. Was Aisha radiallahu anha not already engaged before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
She was, actually.
Allegedly.
This is proven.
Allegedly. Again, doesn't matter at all to the point.
And
Anyway, we beat this to death as well.
Like community.
Is there anything else?
Even intimacy in today's West. And for the kafirs, you know, outside of marriage, there's like 14, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds having intercourse, bro. This is reality.
Oh my! I'm not going to go into this. What does it matter whether it's okay? Whatever.
Reality, because we grew up.
Allah. But look at this verse.
Yeah. Now they want to. This is where I started interacting with them. Then they took back the whole idea that I was actually saying morality should be completely objective. What is the next argument? Let's see.
Even according to your own criteria, you should be submitting to Jesus. Is that about right?
Yep, that's it. That's right.
What did he say?
Let's see if he gets it.
To another reason that Sneeko gives for
no,
converting
he just
to
goes on.
Islam.
I like the fact that you pray 5 times a day, Islam. You're going to be more grounded. They take prayer more seriously than any other religion.
All right. Now, this is actually a really strange one because not too long after he recorded this video, he asked for guidance in this area, and he said this.
I don't have the time to pray 5 times a day. Are you supposed to take all the steps fully? Are you supposed to fully dive into it, or can you, like, what's
Wow. How dare he have an ideal and then ask, how does he reach that ideal? Very sad.
The next move.
So now, it's pretty strange that he cites praying 5 times a day as something that he likes about Islam, which is...
Okay, let's read the response.
Yeah, I then made an explanation to them here. They actually interacted with me, which was...
I don't judge people for C marriage. I think you guys know what C is in 7th century. I judge the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, as a timeless example. You can lengthily discuss this with me, and I will be completely honest with you. We'll respond tomorrow. Okay, inshallah, sounds good. Based on this, you know what? I think that's fair. 100%. As a timeless example. Amazing. And what did the religion he brought teach? That there are mainly 3 criteria for someone to be ready for marriage. And this is better, by the way, than any age. This is why the Prophet ﷺ is the perfect example, because it's above, oh, you have to be this old. What age can you say? You have to be 30 years old? That's way too old for most people. Okay, 3 is old enough? No, most people are not going to be ready at 3. 17, some are ready, some are not. So you cannot give an age, which is the problem that the West falls into. So how do you get around this? First, you have to have someone of authority, of legitimacy, who's logical, rational enough to make that decision for you in case you're not ready. Mainly the father, who's his job, by the way, to protect you. And if not, the imam of the masjid. And if not, then the khalifa himself. That's what Islam says. Even state protection for the person. Yes, the khalifa himself, if need be. Okay? And on top of that, they have to decide and they have to see, are you mentally and emotionally ready for it?
100%.
And if you are not, then you cannot get married.
Okay, and here is the point. Here's the point. He just said some people are ready at 16 or 18, and some people are not. Now, do you think it is better to make a general rule based on the average completion of puberty, and then to say, people complete puberty at the age of 17. Let's give it another year and make 18 the age of consent. Or do you think it is completely okay to just make an arbitrary rule and possibly also allow 6-year-olds or 9-year-olds to get married? What do you think is more reasonable? And,
I think one of those,
no matter what you say, no girl in the world is, unless in extreme exceptions, mentally and physically, meaning sexually, ready for marriage at 9 years old. It simply is not the case. There is no such thing. So if you want to say, well, some girls might be ready at the age of 7 or 8 or 10, no, it simply is not the
11
case.
months. 11 months if their parents say,
maybe 11 months.
Yeah, she looks fine to me. She reached precocious puberty, so she's fine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, multiple problems here. Again, in the Quran, Allah is totally fine. He's specifically referring to marrying, having sex with, and divorcing girls before puberty. So that's not the requirement. So according to the Quran, parents during the time of Muhammad are judging that it's okay to have sex with their prepubescent girls. So if parental consent is your criterion, then okay, parents were apparently consenting to having their daughters married off to old perverts even before puberty. But notice, these are the same guys. If you said to these guys, because keep in mind, there's a parallel here with like transitioning little children, right? Like even people who are fine with people transitioning or something like that. There are people who have there are even people in the LGBTQ community who have a problem with transitioning kids. I say, don't do that. Don't do that with kids. You got to wait until you're old enough to be making those kinds of decisions. What do the people on the other side of the issue say? They say, no, that's for the child and the parents to decide. And so the parents and the child have to decide whether this child is old enough to consent to this surgery to have breast removed or penis removed or something like that. What are they saying? They're saying, let the parents decide this. Let the parents decide whether this 5, 6, 7-year-old really has decided that he or she should transition and so on. Every one of these guys would say, would say, where in the name of common sense you get in the idea that parents can make these kinds of decisions and so on.
Parents are in no position to make such a decision.
Yeah, so they would say, if you're a parent, you're making that kind of decision, then wait a minute. I thought parental consent is your criterion. That's your criterion. You said the parents know best. And I don't get it here. What's like, so in other words, these guys would understand that parents can be influenced by all kinds of factors. Parents can be manipulated by total groomers who want to molest their kids. Parents can be manipulated by that kinds of stuff. Parents can be on drugs and want to sell their kids for sex. Parents can be as massively screwed up as anyone. Why would you think that they get to make these kinds of decisions, and that a parent who is making a messed up decision, which endangers their child, should be held to account by the state? But the parents can say, hey, my 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old is perfectly capable of having a grown, creepy old Heaven's Gate dude climb on top of her.
It's they're making it sound like parents are. I mean, they make this very usual mistake here in making it look like parents are in such a position that they're
infallible.
They always know what's best for their child. They are lords, owners, gods over their child, so they can make these extremely important decisions for their child. And of course, they're not wrong or anything. That's not how it works. We have laws nowadays simply because individuals within a society are not expected to be like that. The child of a family is an individual. It is not just a child. It is meant to become a distinct individual. When I raise my own child, I'm not raising my property. I'm not raising my doll that I can do with whatever I want. I'm not raising something that I'm saying, this is going to be, this is my experiment, this is my child, and it's going to be exactly what I want it to be. No, you are raising a human being that is one day going to become an adult human being, independent from you, and you are in no position. You have no right. You are in no position to make such permanent decisions for another independent individual that you are only in charge of raising. You simply cannot do this. You are not an all-knowing, almighty person. You are not a god. You are nothing. You are just somebody who is in charge of raising another human being, and you are supposed to respect the rights of that human being. And Rebecca Borg here made a chat and pointed it out quite clearly. Ideally, we don't get around matters of consent. We base a decision or law on well-being of all involved parties, especially children. You can't just give it over to the parents. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in any way. It simply doesn't work. There is no explanation to this.
Yeah, parents are obviously making tons of decisions for their children, but when it comes to decisions about marriage and things like that, you understand that is something that involves your child's future life.
Yeah.
And your goal as a parent is to be protecting your child until your child is capable of making those kinds of decisions, because that's your child's future and so on. So it's like, hey, I'm supposed to protect and educate my child so that eventually when my child is mature enough to make these kinds of decisions, my child makes wise decisions and so on. And these guys all seem to think this is why by the way, this is why it's creepy. And this is one of the main reasons we're concerned about people spreading these ideas. human beings, this is what they would say. If we were talking about, a parent deciding, hey, I want my 6-year-old, I want my 6-year-old to transition from boy to girl or something like that, they would say, okay, those parents have been manipulated by society or something into making these bad decisions. Yes, parents can be manipulated into making decisions that are not actually in the best interest of their child. So why would you make parental consent the deciding factor? So that's one issue. They would understand that it's a problem if it were not an issue that they're trying to defend. But then once these guys have decided, hey, parents can decide when it's acceptable for their children to get married, but then they spread the idea that it's perfectly acceptable to have sex with a child, and that influences the parents. So they're trying to create a society where parents gladly hand over little children to marry much older men. So guys, if we're looking at this, we actually think that it's bad, which we do. We think it's bad for grown men to marry 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds. And these guys are saying, your Western society's all screwed up. It's perfectly acceptable as long as parents give their consent, but we are going to influence those parents so that parents view it as completely acceptable to have sex with little kids. Should we be concerned about the spread of these ideas? Should we be concerned about teaching people Islam? Again, Sneeko was a Muslim for all of 5 minutes before he changed his mind about child marriage being acceptable. He went from saying, no, that's gross, to saying, no, perfectly fine, because he accepted a prophet who had sex with a 9-year-old girl. So if we care about kids at all, should we be concerned about the spread of this ideology? We're going to make the criteria parental consent, and then we're going to groom the parents so that they hand over their little kids to grown men.
Yep.
But don't see a problem here. Do not see the obvious problem here, ladies and gentlemen.
Obviously.
Okay, so someone like Ridwan would look at Allah today saying that the age of consent, let's say, is 19 in the country. Because of that, the age of marriage should be 19. You have genetically...
No, I would not do that at all. But hey, whatever. I would like to happily discuss this with them. But they're just assuming too much about how I would view things. But this is not how I view it. I think that
would say whatever his culture has decided, that should be the rule for everyone of all times, and they will impose that on Muhammad.
I think people make laws and come to specific norms based on reasonable ideas, and you may agree and disagree with those ideas. I am not taking these ideas as they are, these laws as they are, and turning them into my ideas. But we can lengthily discuss that. Yeah.
Until maybe way later than majority. Way later than the age of maturity.
Okay. Anything else? John's argument?
Ironically, the same thing that he thinks that he can't do. Now, I'm not sure if he realizes that these prayers aren't prayers that spontaneously come from the heart. Instead, these prayers are just memorized sayings in Arabic, which is, of course, a language that's...
Wait, so liking structure means that it doesn't come... What?
Sneeko doesn't understand. But Sneeko just likes the structure that comes with ritualized...
That's an example. He goes, what?
This whole stream, and it's so sad to see grown men do this, is just like... kind of making fun and mocking. Like, are you a grown adult? Come on, man, really? Sitting here and mocking, and like, just think for a second. He likes the structure.
I'm very familiar with how they are responding to us actually expressing directly what we think, because this is very common in Muslim culture, where you're supposed to be this, you're like, act like a man, act like a grown-up. Be serious. Do not make jokes. Grown men don't play games. Grown men don't joke about this. Don't joke about that. Always be serious and be this and that. It's just a very strange expectation of humans. And then you wonder why people turn out to be so angry later on. But yeah, this is just. I mean, you should be aware of this, Muslim one. With all due respect, of Western culture, and how in Western culture people don't really have that attitude, but that we are more laid back and relaxed and genuine, not so pretentious. I'm not saying this is an insult. This is just an observation. But yeah, you should know this.
And again, think about the process here. Sneeko converts to Islam and says, here are my reasons. We respond to those. John McCrae responded to those reasons, showing why they're completely wrong. Now, notice the assumption. Hey, if these are your actual reasons, you'll need to rethink this because all of the reasons you gave actually backfire. So that's one point. Two, Sneeko is also saying all of this online, and he's saying these things to people, some of whom obviously know better because they're exposed. I mean, they're pointing out the problems as he's saying these things, but also Sneeko has viewers who are kids who don't know anything, and he's saying all these things about Christianity and Islam that are completely wrong. Should we correct them? Or notice what these guys are saying. It's almost like, hey, let Sneeko say whatever he wants, no matter how absurd or ridiculous, and don't correct him because what? Is this your religion? Let people go around spouting complete nonsense and don't correct them? No, you would only say this if someone is on your side and doing it. Then it's suddenly a rule. Don't correct them, no matter how stupid what they're saying actually is. If he were a convert to Christianity saying completely idiotic and insane things about Islam, you would be all for correcting those errors. And it's just I've never seen any concept of consistency from Dawa guys ever, not once.
There's something that when we come to the idea of having structure, there's something that John brought up in his response to Sneeko, which was Sneeko was supposedly raised Catholic. We later, of course, learned that he has no idea about Catholicism and Catholic beliefs and practices at all. So when he says I was raised Catholic, that probably just means he was in a Catholic family and that's it. But if he so likes structure, he could find structure within Catholicism, even in ways like adopting specific rituals and doing those and being very devout and obedient and loving and all that. And to the plus side, in Catholicism, he would even be able to do rituals in a language that he understands, aside from the Latin stuff. But he would actually be able to speak English while he prays, for example, and still make prayers and all that. If he wants to pray 5 times a day so much, he could pray 10 times a day and do that in English instead of doing repeating things in Arabic, which he will never understand and which he obviously cannot do, just like half of the Muslim world cannot do it. But yeah, interesting stuff, man. And hey, if I see somebody say something weird and something stupid, I laugh to it. I laugh in reaction to it. Okay, great. This is how a normal human acts. Are these guys going to sit down and also react to Ali Dawa and Muhammad Hijab and be like, look at these people? Look at
these guys have entire shows just laughing at and mocking everyone they disagree with and stuff. And these guys suddenly have a problem with it if it's it's non-Muslims.
Yeah. He likes the rigidity of it. He likes the respectability of it. He likes the discipline in it. And why is John assuming that these are empty prayers? Why are these empty prayers all of a sudden? And we don't feel it from the heart. Who says we don't love praying 5 times a day?
Well, Sneeko doesn't. He said he can't even do it.
So I prayed 5 times a day for quite a few years. I didn't do it for a decade or so, but I did it for years. And it is genuinely a struggle. And I was passionately devoted to it, and I also loved it. But the thing is, it doesn't matter how much you love it. It is hard. It is hard to interrupt your day 5 times. Also have to wash yourself in a specific way, just to then do the same repetitive thing over and over and over and over and over again, without adding anything to it from your heart at all. Where you could if you so much want to have a structure and pray, you could even do that without a religion. So seriously, you could even do that with meditation, if that is what you're going for, which is a very ridiculous reason to convert to a religion. If that is what you're going for, you could even do that by just sitting down every day and meditating, if you want to do that so much. And I'm sure you can find a way to appreciate that as well and be passionate about it. But you can do that in Christianity as well. You can do that in Judaism. You can do that as You can go to a Buddhist temple and dedicate your life to having a Buddhist life where you completely abstain from anything that is pleasurable in life if you are so passionate about it. This is just a terrible approach. It doesn't make sense. In Islam, you're just repeating things that others prescribed, that others said before. You're not sitting down and genuinely pouring your heart out there. You can say as much as you want that you individually love it, that you individually like it, that you want to do it. It doesn't change the fact that it is absurd and that half the Muslim world doesn't do it because people find it hard and a waste of time. Yeah.
Why is this a problem? Oh, he responded?
It big
Let me
problem.
maximize my screen. 1 second. Okay.
Okay, here they I basically told them that I'm not arguing that Islam is false because Muhammad married a child. That's not what I'm saying at all. And then they say, but how? It doesn't make sense. You always say Islam is wrong, so why are you talking about this? Again, weird stuff. I'm just saying Islam is bad for different reasons. I'm not saying Islam is wrong because of child marriage. But anyway, anything else? Let me see if there was anything else here. Hierarchy. They don't really address anything here, I think. Claims against reverts. I say that Muslim converts often find themselves trapped. They say that's not true. Many converts actually want to be part of Islam. And so on. There's nothing very much here, I think, other than this that needs to be addressed. Let me quickly listen to
weren't there 1400 years ago. So we need fatwa from scholars. We need rulings by scholars. But the ways that they come to these fatwas, to these rulings, are the same. The methodology doesn't change at all. This is unique to Islam. No other religion has this.
Yeah, there's literally a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where the Prophet ﷺ, he was going to send 2 people to be judges in Yemen, 2 companions. And he...
They're saying that Islam is unique in that it has a structure of Muslim scholars judging what is right and what is wrong, and this develops with a very solid tradition over time. Have you guys ever heard of Rabbinic Judaism? Don't people criticize the rabbi culture and the Talmud and all of that because of this very thing? I don't understand. How is Islam unique in this?
Yeah, and Joshua Little puts it, explains things in some of his talks. Joshua Little's the hero of lots of new Muslims who want to argue that Aisha was actually older than 9 when Muhammad had sex with her. But Little points out in some of his talks that early Islam was actually regional. You had different areas. So you had one Islam of Mecca, one Islam of Medina, one Islam of Kufa and Syria and so on. You had these different versions of Islam. And even though they had things like 5 daily prayers in common, on legal rulings, they were very, very, very different. As far as you go to one area and they'd say one thing, and you go to a different area and they'd say the complete opposite ruling. And then both groups would make up hadiths tracing their ruling back to a companion of Muhammad and so on. And so you end up with completely contradictory teachings in the hadith. So for example, just as an example, some of the areas were still practicing mutta, others didn't practice mutta. And so they both had hadiths that they traced back to Muhammad's companions, and some of them said mutta, temporary marriage, so prostitution. You hire a prostitute and you just say, okay, while we're banging, we'll be married for an hour, and I'll pay you this. And so it's actual prostitution. And
Nice.
some areas said it's fine, other areas said no, it's wrong. But then what they do is they start justifying their claims by making up earlier and earlier authorities. Until one group would be saying, yes, we heard it from Muhammad that this is the rule. And another group saying, no, Muhammad didn't do that. That was a later guy that you guys are following, and so on. And so you can open up Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim and find both views, both contradictory views. In other words, you can find mutta was allowed for a while, but then Muhammad changed his mind and said no more mutta. And you can find, no, mutta was fine throughout the life of Muhammad and afterward, and it was eventually this later caliph who forbade the practice. You find both of those in the exact same hadith collections. But notice, what are you talking about? You guys have this awesome legal methodology, that's giving you completely contradictory answers as to what's acceptable and not acceptable. And then eventually you get to this sort of pan-Islam methodology where all these different areas have to be brought together under one Islam. And that's when they start saying, okay, here, we're going to go with this ruling here and say that that's official Islam and so on. So them talking about this is they've got this great system. You have a system that was eventually imposed on people who had all kinds of different versions of Islam, all kinds of different legal rulings. Eventually someone just said, we're going to impose this way of thinking on the entire community. And even that didn't work because you still have, different groups in different schools of thought giving different rulings on things.
Yeah, I quickly want to add that they basically say that Islam is actually very good because we are in need of having scholars who tell us what is right and what is wrong and who share their wisdom with us and all of that. I mean, wasn't it a problem earlier that if we worship a human, then we're going to end up listening to biased humans who can... Wasn't that a problem earlier? So why do we need some weirdos from centuries ago, from a millennium ago, to tell us exactly what is okay and what is not? Why do we need a bunch of weirdos in our time to sit down and say, hey, this scholar back in the day, may Allah be pleased with him, said this and this and this about this and this and that matter, and that is comparable to this and that which we are doing now. Therefore, you shall not take your phone with you into the bathroom when you are taking a dump, because I mean, why, man? Why? We don't need this. We don't need any of this stuff. You can come to conclusions reasonably about how to live your life, about how to respect other human beings, about how to live as a society. About I don't think you need rules on how to enter the bathroom or what to take into the bathroom and whatnot.
You need rules on do you need rules on how to pee squatting and condemnations on peeing standing up? Keep in mind, I mean, Muhammad said that more than half the punishment of the grave is because you're not squatting while peeing. This is the guy. This is the guy who said you have to. He gave you a schedule of how frequently you need to, pluck your pubic hair and shave your armpits and all this stuff. And this guy, this is what he's obsessed with.
Yeah.
And
obviously, go ahead.
Oh yeah, just wanted to say, and the overarching message of the creator of the universe, according to Islam, is once again, you have to live and think and walk and talk and eat and drink like a 7th century Arab. That's the central goal of the creator of the universe. He wants you to do everything like a 7th century Arab would. That's his obsession.
Obviously, the whole tradition of adhering to these scholars who base their ideas on the Shaykh al-Islam who lived I don't know, half a millennium ago doesn't work. Obviously, it is nonsense. Obviously, it is idiotic, counterproductive, not good for developing societies that want to move forward, which is why you guys have references of guys saying it is okay to cut little girls and make them pure and ready for marriage. It is okay to marry little children. It is okay to take slaves. It is okay to do this and that. It is okay to kill apostates. And then you guys have to sit here and somehow explain why this is actually not bad. Somehow you have to sit here and say, no, there is a wisdom behind this. There is a reason to it. It's obvious it doesn't work. This is not how humans are supposed to function. This is not how humans function, which is why even most Muslims do not follow your Islamic laws and your Islamic morality. Even Muslims are sick of it. This is not how it's supposed to be. People are supposed to be reasonable and come to conclusions about what to do and what not to do based on their own, based on the faculties that they have, and where they can observe if killing people who disagree with you is actually good or not for your society. Because you guys end up following your tradition of Islamic scholars and end up in such a position where you cannot even conclude that killing apostates is wrong, because you have to justify it one way or another. There is no rationality to it at all. You have to somehow find a way and agree with it under some circumstances, because that is what your prophet said, and that is what your scholars have argued. And that's just it does not work. It is backward. It is barbaric. It does not work. But hey, after everything These guys were quite nice actually, and were quite respectful. And I would always extend an open arm and invitation and say we are here to talk, to discuss, and be nice and honest and friendly to each other.
Yeah, and as far as I can tell, everyone's rallying around. So these guys are defending Sneeko from critiques of his claims. Sajid posted something, haven't seen it yet. Fareed posted something in response to us criticizing Sneeko's claims and so on. And so it looks like, based on these guys, it's what are you doing criticizing this poor young guy? How dare you, make fun of and criticize his completely incorrect, stupid claims. It reminds me of, like, remember when Greta Thunberg came out?
Yeah.
And there's all these clips of her, how dare you? And she's saying all this stuff. But then as soon as anyone would respond to her and say, hey, what she just said there is stupid or something like that, the response would be, what are you doing criticizing her? She's just a little girl. She's just a little girl. How dare you criticize her? It's like, look, take your pick. I agree. You shouldn't do a pile on of some little girl and stuff like that. But if you guys, if you're sharing clips of someone and saying, ha, here's our new champion or spokesperson or poster girl for our view or whatever, then if you're putting her forward, then you're opening her views up to criticism. Don't say she's too young. You're the ones sharing her view. And likewise, if Muslims are saying, oh, look at Sneeko, he's converted, let's have him on our shows to explain why Islam is the truth, you're putting his claims out there for scrutiny. You do it. If you want to say he's a new convert, he's like a baby, don't take anything he says seriously until he grows up, that's fine. But don't be parading his reasons for leaving Christianity and accepting Islam and stuff around the internet if you don't want us actually exposing how stupid and insane they are.
Yeah. That's what it is. I want to quickly look at one more thing here before we ride off into the.
I honestly feel bad for them.
Something. Wait a minute. There is one thing that they said here. Message to AP.
All petty comments, aside, and all these personal things aside, we generally are open to having a conversation with you. Okay. And this can be at a proper time that works with all of us. There's no point doing back and forth. Even listen, stuff happened with Young Don last year. We get it, right? A lot of people have been commenting about this. But listen, Allah is all forgiving. And at the end of the day, we as Muslims are not gatekeepers to Hidayah. I don't know why a lot of Muslims are moving like...
Hidayah means guidance. So it says we're not gatekeepers to the guidance you might receive from Allah.
Oh, how can this person say this and then come back to Islam? Bro, are you an arbiter of who gets Hidayah and not? What made you the person that's kind of like the person guarding the bridge to guidance from Allah? You're not. You yourself are a fallible human being that should be grateful that you got Hidayah from Allah. So no matter what sins people have done, how much they've slandered Islam, if they make tawbah, sincere tawbah, and they turn back to Allah, then we are nobody to turn them away from Islam. So with Young Don, we have an intention of genuinely talking to him about Islam. He has been on our stream in the chat, I think last week when Rami was doing with Dr. Ali Atai, and he said he'll plan it with us.
Just for context, Young Don is another YouTuber who originally made animations and very, very nice artistic videos, and then he started streaming, gaming, streaming, and stuff like that. And then he also he converted. He became a Christian. He was, I think he didn't have a religion. Then he became a Christian. And then he started changing. He changed his name to Young Don Reborn, and then he had a big fight with these guys because he said that Islam is disgusting and horrible, and these guys of course didn't like it. And then he praised David and me, and then we got into this. Then I invited him on my channel, and then it looked like it is me against these guys because of Young Don. And then Young Don said, you know what, I don't want to talk about this stuff anymore. I don't want to have anything to do with it anymore. So he went back into the shadows. But now there are new developments with Young Don's beliefs, so it's coming up again. But yeah, just for context.
But everything that has happened. So my sincere invitation to Ridwan is, bro, it's not too late. And maybe a part of you will genuinely vibe with what I'm saying right now. I get it. You're getting paid. There's a huge burden that you carry on your shoulders for you to continue operating, maybe financially, maybe with the clout that you are operating at right
that's why you have a problem with child marriage, and that's why you have a problem with being beheaded, AP.
See, this is where things get a little bit wrong. Like, I appreciate the whole attitude here, right? I appreciate the whole speech that they have given so far, because it's very different from how most Muslims react. Like Ali Dawah, for example, reacts with "May Allah destroy you. I can't wait till you die and go to hell."
And let's all pray for them to get diseases. Remember that?
Yeah. So these guys don't do that. So these guys are quite different. It's good. It's nice. But then he throws in a very condescending and malicious sounding thing here, which is that he explains my passion for what I'm doing with you're getting money, and that and he makes it sound like he's being kind about it and understanding about it, but that is dirty, man.
Look, AP, I understand it that, of course, if we ever are able to establish our Islamic society, you will be under multiple death sentences. You'll be executed. Your wife will become the sexual property of Muslims. Your kids will be enslaved. But I mean, obviously, the only reason you could possibly have any problem with any of this is because you're clearly getting rich off of all of this, and so we get that. We get that you gotta make your money, and of course don't want to be brutally slaughtered in the name of Allah. So we can kind of get that.
It's
so dumb. Guys, can you get your mind around the idea that we don't want to be violently subjugated in the name of the most obvious false prophet in history, a guy who's a freaking pedophile? Can you get your mind around that you don't need any additional reason? This is weird stuff, man.
I'm not getting lots of money here. In fact, often I'm not even in a great position to afford all the stuff that I am doing and to keep going, which is why I have been spending a lot of time trying to somehow make a proper source of income while continuing this, since even things like sponsorships or even monetization doesn't work very well. So I don't know what kind of fantasies people are having. I'm not getting paid by any specific source or by people or by lobby either.
If you wanted to be insanely filthy rich right now, just say, after years of criticizing Islam,
that's what I'm getting.
I've realized that, wow, the Quran is so amazingly written. When I was trying to destroy it, it has to be from, and all my objections against Muhammad, on closer inspection, I've realized that this is just a Western conspiracy against the truth of Islam. And now I'm converting back to Islam. Dude, they would make it rain piles of cash on you for the rest of your life.
Say that to me all the time. People say that in Muslim chat. Even in that chat, there were people saying, "Hey, why don't you come back to Islam? Your channel would blow up. You would get this and this and that." This is how they actually try to convince me. We even have I'm not going to, since we're talking about this, and since this guy has no issues with respecting his private messages either, it was actually Muhammad Hijab himself who first brought this up to me as a serious person in the Islamic Dawah circle, who actually came to me and he said to me, hey, a lot of the early Muslim leaders, a lot of the great Muslim leaders were once enemies of Islam. If you converted back to Islam, if you became a Muslim again, you would have so much support, and things would be amazing. Actually, let me quickly see where that is, and let me find the exact wording that he said to me. But Muhammad Hijab, actually, I never said this to anybody, but this is the first time that I'm revealing this right now. Muhammad Hijab, while bashing me in public and saying all kinds of terrible things and making all kinds of insults, told me in private that I should come back to Islam no matter what, because if I come back to Islam, then I would become a great leader for the Muslims. I would become a great personality for the Muslims. Muslims would love it. They would appreciate it. I would become a great one, just like Omar. And that's what he said to me. So that is how Muhammad Hijab was actually trying to lure me back into Islam in our private messages. I'm not kidding. I'm serious.
And you could defend child marriage.
Yeah, and it is true. If I sat down today and said, you know what, guys, after everything, I've had a change of heart, and I've come to a conclusion and decided that I am a Muslim. I believe in Islam, and I repent for everything that I did. I would lose a lot of people here. I would lose a lot of support here. But the amount of support that I would receive then from the other side would be much bigger. My channel would probably skyrocket. It would grow. I would have a lot of people supporting me. I could do a lot of help me, guys, help me establish a new thing and change people's minds and save other people from becoming as deluded as I was when I was an apostate. Let us build a mission together and do this and this and that. I could do a lot of things. I mean, why in the world do you have to go down this dirty path and in your kindness say, I know, you're making money and that's why you're passionate. This is just dirty, man.
Yeah, totally slimy. And I mean, I regard it as insulting because you're saying these guys are nice, and but when it's the only reason you're doing this is not not because you have any respect for truth or for what's right and wrong. So there can't be any of that. You must just be out for money or something like that. That's actually insulting. So 3Muslims. So to you 3Muslims who insulted my friend, the apostate prophet, I say once again, Muhammad's a child molesting, murdering rapist. You started it. I didn't. I didn't. You started with the insults. You insulted AP. Great. Your prophet was only in it because he wanted to molest a little girl and take the wife of his own adopted son because he's a total sicko pervert. You started it. I didn't. I wasn't going to say anything like that, but you guys did it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm leaving it there. I'm saying, hey guys, I understand. I am open to still having a conversation. And
I mean, I just want to point out, because I mean, things are different now. Things are different now in the sense that it's comparatively safer than it was. But when me and Nabil actually decided we're just gonna go all out dealing with Islam, we thought we were signing our death sentence. We thought we were signing our death certificate, right? We thought we were dead within 5 years. That's what we thought. Because this is the time when, like, people who criticized Islam were still getting killed, like Theo Van Gogh and so on. You're still getting murdered. You couldn't make a cartoon without, being under a death sentence for the rest of your life. We thought we were dying, and we were willing to lay down our lives for it. And so when people come along later and you come out speaking against Islam, exposing the false claims of Muhammad, and people say, you're just at it for this. Dude, I mean, we all understand what we're putting on the line here. We're willing to do it. Yeah, think we're doing that for some nickels and dimes here? Is that what you really think we're putting our lives on the line? Our lives on the line for? Is that what you think? That's stupid. Wait, why are you muted and talking?
Yeah, I muted myself earlier.
Yeah. Well, see, now I can't even defend you because you're as dumb as these guys say. Sitting there talking and you're muted. And furthermore, ladies and gentlemen, I'm muted.
Oh boy. I wanted to quickly show this. This is just a part of what I was saying earlier, but I'm just to say that, just to back up what I earlier said. And
why are you sharing private messages? You haven't gotten this. You would be stabbed in prison for doing this stuff, man.
What Mohammed Hijab shares private messages that he had with other people all the time. For example, he published a video in which he shared private interactions between himself and Cosmic Skeptic in order to call him out and humiliate him.
Okay, well then, and then for the sake of consistency, he has declared that it's okay.
Yeah, no, it is implied. It is implied that it's okay. So,
but if you ever do this with anyone else, you're getting shanked in prison. Just
I would never do this with anyone else. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to get shanked. But this is only part of that conversation. He said a lot of stuff earlier, but he was like, "Think about it, man."
He said, "Think about it. Think about it."
He said, "Think about it, man." I think you could be a great leader in the Muslim community. Some of our greatest names were once enemies of Islam, like Omar al-Khattab. This is just part of the conversation. There is a long part earlier where he describes how I could get everything I wanted if I convert back to Islam and maybe come together with him and go to Hajj with him and stuff like that. It was kind of quite insane. And I actually told him, hey, I might I might do my shahada and go to Hajj, to the pilgrimage, just because I always wanted to go, but just for that, you know. Of course, he didn't react to that.
Hey, we should do it. We should sneak into the Hajj one day.
He's not very. Yeah. He doesn't have a very good sense of humor. He didn't appreciate that joke.
Oh, can you imagine the video if we like the YouTube gold? If it's like David when the apostate prophet sneak into the Hajj. Here's what happened. Then this happened.
yeah. That would be good, man. But we will probably die or something. I don't know. Mm-hmm. We're probably on some system there, and they can recognize us.
Spewing misguidance.
Are you still playing this? I'm supposed to be watching. I'm supposed to be taking care of a kid right now.
I don't care. I don't care about your kid. Okay. Final message to the 3 Muslims. No hard feelings. I appreciate it. I think you guys are genuinely doing what you think is the right thing. I appreciate that. I appreciate where you're coming from, and I'm happy to interact with you guys further. Let's keep this going. Contact me, or I'll contact you. Okay, David, do you want to leave?
Yeah, should probably set something up on both channels. You know what I mean? Can have a discussion on some relevant topic on their channel, another relevant topic over on this channel, and.
Yeah, I got a bunch of super chats here, but unfortunately, this stream was way too long. So
yeah, it is, and it is weird how they say, "Oh, we don't want to interact with these guys and platform these guys," but they all like make constant videos playing our stuff and then responding to it. When guys, if you want to respond to our stuff, you can just respond to our faces. Like, what's your objection to it?
Fareed recently made a stream. In his stream, he reacted to us inviting him to our channels. He said, "No, I have too much self-respect to."
Aren't like half of his videos about us?
Yeah. And then he sits there and talks about us for 5 hours while saying, "I have too much self-respect to join your channel, to have a conversation with you.
I have too much self-respect to be on your channel, so I won't do it. What I'm going to do is have an endless series of 5-hour live streams responding to you."
It's so crazy. It's insane. It's weird logic. Anyway, thanks everybody for the super chats. I appreciate it. I tried to highlight them all. Most of them were comments agreeing with us. David, if you want to go, just go. I'll quickly.
Okay, yeah. I got a bolt. But yeah, we are supposed to be back this Thursday. We were supposed to do this tonight, but then schedules were off. So I think we're supposed to be on this channel Thursday with Cameron Bertuzzi of Capturing Christianity and Khalil Andani, Muslim scholar, and we're going to be discussing whether Christians and Muslims should team up against horrible, evil atheists like AP. So this should be a good one. All right,
we're going to be live with Cameron Bertuzzi, and we'll talk about a lot of things, and it will be bellissimo.
And we eat a spaghetti. Why are you doing Italian, man? All right, catch you later.
Okay, see you, David. I'll quickly. I hope Cameron has a sense of humor here. Jesse Brand said, "I was considering Islam, but found Christ. Glory be." Happy for you. People like Elon Musk should be kicked out from the Democratic Party, spewing hate against Jews, Hindus, and Christians. Love your work. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Dr. Mordecai made a super sticker, which I cannot see here. Found your channel from a discussion with Jay Dyer. I should have a discussion with Jay Dyer again. We have radically different views on so many things, but I actually really enjoyed talking to him about God and all that, and his Orthodox Christian beliefs and everything. And I find the guy very funny, very entertaining. Let me see if the live chat is still here. Yes, it's still here. Okay. Not that I'm talking to myself and I'm gone or something. I don't know. I'll quickly go through a few things here, maybe just for a minute, and then I will leave too. Sneeko is as much a Catholic as Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi is. Carlo Magno TV said, "Your child is not your property." Exactly. They don't belong to you. They belong to God. Well, there we disagree. As a parent, your job is to be a guardian. I guess we have the same idea from it, but yeah. A steward for your child. Exactly. House of Hikmah said, "I'm too shy to say this, but Allah is not Allah is not of you." What? "I'm too shy to say this, but Allah is not of you like AP pay zakat." Allah is not. If you like AP Paisaka, you need to type better. Man. What is wrong with you, House of Hikmah? Please leave these premises. Learn to type a coherent sentence that actually makes sense, and then come back and make another super chat. What is this? Stop embarrassing yourself. You'll be humiliated here. I forgot what your name is, man. But yeah, I'm just saying this to him because I know he appreciates it. He loves it when he's humiliated. If you don't like AP, pay the jizya and feel yourself subdued. Fantastic. I completely agree with this. Yeah. No, I need as much support as possible because unfortunately I'm not getting rich from doing this, and that's very sad. Because now that these guys think I am getting rich, I should be getting rich, but it's not. It's not happening. With an open mind, Islam is made up. Yes. Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, look these up. I'm not going to do it right now because I have to go as well, but I appreciate it. Do you only review, or viewers can join your stream live? Only review so far. I haven't had a call-in show in quite a long time. SGT485 said, if Islam has no hierarchy, how can their scholars have any authority? Who has the final say on anything? Well, yeah, I mean, they have a system of scholars where the scholars actually decide what is right and what is wrong, and the scholars then base it on other scholars, and this just goes on into the future forever. And Muslims are supposed to sit down and decide which scholar is right and which scholar is wrong, but that again is also left to their scholars. But aside from that, the hierarchy exists where Muslims have to follow a leader and obey him, and that leader has to follow Muhammad and obey him fully, and he is the only path to Allah, and so on. It's all a mess. It's all a giant mess. Have any apologists and/or academics talked in depth at all about if Muslim hell is more immoral than Christian hell? That's a funny question. Never seen such a thing before. I guess I don't know. How do you really define the morality there? It's not really. That's a very strange thing to analyze. How do we define whether Allah's hell is more immoral than God's hell, when you have to first find out what God's hell actually is? I mean, Allah's hell is quite described in a very graphic way in the Quran, where a place where you go and burn for all eternity, and you're skinned and burned over and over again, and you suffer, and your skin is burnt off, and then you are given new skin so that you can keep suffering again and again. It's pretty messed up. Yeah. And the rest of the super chats, I think I went to everybody here. All right. Marissa Kennedy said, what the hell is hell? Quick shout out here before I leave. Although I don't like Christians, just kidding. Elle made a very, what is happening with my screen here? Oh, because that's maximized here. I don't know, whatever. LISO Elohim had made a video about Sneeko that is actually very, very informative. So quick shout out to her. Her channel is quite small right now. Her channel is pathetically small, very poor. I look at it and I laugh because it only has 5,000 subscribers. If you appreciate more criticism of Islam, go and check it out and subscribe, just as I did, and support. I think she does great work as well. And she's somewhere in the chat as well. Although I don't like Christians. Yeah. Yeah. No, just kidding. Yeah, with that said, wait, somebody said you missed my super chat. Who is that? Who would dare to question my AP? Did you mention my super chat? How dare you? How dare you? I probably did. Let me see. Paul, did you even make a super chat, or are you just... Oh, here. Okay. I'm sorry for questioning your... So a man is never worthy of worship, but a believing man is potentially worthy of eternal paradise, in which he is given houris and servants. Of course. Of course. That's what you're living for. That is the meaning of life. You are living a temporary life here just to obey Allah, and then eventually go to heaven, where you will then have an unlimited number of women that were created specifically for you that you can have sex with for all eternity. It's just amazing, isn't it? And also servants that bring your cups to you, where you recline and you drink wine and milk and have orgies and stuff. It's just amazing, man. So beautiful. Makes me want to go back to Islam immediately. It's just so heartwarming. Wow. Some guy said, what would you say if you met Muhammad? I don't want to say that right now. No, I'll probably have a serious conversation. I would say, hey, sit down. Let's talk. All right. Nicholas said, endless banana. That is based on some narrations that are, though, not considered authentic. What he's saying is that you will have an endless boner in heaven, but it's not a universal, unambiguous belief, actually. Dr. Jekyll said AP is a closet Christian. What are you talking? What do you mean closet? I'm not a closet. I'm a Christian whenever I go into a closet. No, I'm a real Christian. I even have a. But I'm a Catholic Christian. I actually have a rosary right here that I use to just fidget. Yeah. Just kidding. I'm an atheist. I don't believe, but I just appreciate religious stuff for some weird reason. Leon said, thoughts on Günter Lüling. Who's Günter Lüling? Am I supposed to know this? Am I going to be judged and said and called completely ignorant, horrible person for not even knowing who that is? He doesn't even know who Günter Lüling is. Günter Lüling was a German Protestant theologian, philological scholar, and pioneer in the study of early Islamic origin. Really? What? Of early Islamic origins? Huh. He was the director of German Goethe Institute in Aleppo, Syria. No, I don't know anything. I have no idea. I'm an ignorant person. I have no clue at all. Dr. Jekyll said, heaven will be a lot cooler with you there, AP. Maybe. That just makes me think of that song, Heaven is a Place on Earth. I love that song. What do women get in Islamic heaven? The same thing that women get in the average Islamic society today. Nothing at all. Just a role as an inferior human being who is supposed to be there and exists while the man has all the fun. That's what's going to happen in heaven. Is there anyone who tries to preach universalist Islam where eventually everyone goes to the sex paradise? I don't think you can actually combine. I have come across some fringe Muslims who say everyone could actually go to paradise. But I don't think I have ever heard of a Muslim who says everyone could actually go to the paradise and have unlimited wives there and have sex all day long. I think that's a very, very strange combination. Wow, that's a funny combo. I never thought about that before. Oh, hey, XXWLZXX, do an interview with the historian Tom Holland. I think I tried to reach him before. Didn't Myth Vision have him on? I don't know. I'm not sure, but I might try again. Maybe. I'll see. Black Angel said AP is Catholic. We go to Mass together. Aren't you in Germany and I'm in America? We go to Mass together, virtually, actually. Yeah, we always virtually go to Mass together. Yeah. Do you forgive Muhammad? I'm in no place to forgive anybody. But yeah, I don't even judge anyone for doing stuff in the 7th century. I'm just judging. I'm only judging a religious figure here. I'm judging a religious character here and his role in our minds, in our society, and what it represents. Other than that, I don't judge people for stuff that they did in the 7th century or even in the 17th century or even in the 18th century, if those things were things that were acceptable or normal or whatever. But then again, I usually don't hold hate and unforgiving judgment toward people, even today. I don't even hold grudges against these Muslim apologists that said some horrible things about me and about others. Peter Muchko said, "We still love you, AP, and you will be converting one day, God willing." Maybe not. But I think I'm going to make a video explaining why I'm not a Christian. And then the Muslims will say, "Oh, look, now he's ready to become Muslim again." Okay, I'm sure I should go. I should really go. I need to go. Thanks everyone for joining. Who is spamming? Real Masker said AP shows his benevolence. Yeah, I'm very benevolent. I hate all those who are not as benevolent as me, and I'm also very humble. I'm actually the most humble person ever, the most humble person in existence in today's time. And I think people are just disgusting. They make me sick for not being as humble as me and as benevolent as me. I wish everyone was just like me. Terrible. I love you, AP. I love you too. I love you too. I love you too. I love you too. All right, I'm gonna leave. Kali said, "LOL, AP. Thank you for noticing that I'm being sarcastic. I hope I'm not going to be killed for the things I'm saying today." Okay, I'm leaving. Seriously. Have a good night, everybody, and I will see you again in the next episode of Everything That You Want to Know About Islam. Have a fantastic day. Thank you for joining. And listen to what you are about to hear now.
Stay away from Islam.